new tax revenue, along with about $600 million in tax cuts, a major boost in University of Wisconsin funding, and extension of the tuition freeze, along with 2% annual raises for state employees. It also repeals many of the public employee collective bargaining restrictions instituted in Act 10. The Milwaukee Health Department recently gave the green light to reopen the Pfizer Forum at 10% capacity, with a comprehensive set of safety protocols which requires fans to wear face masks and remain in their seats at all times. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, I'm excited about this show. This is going to be a really big show.
Another one, Crudy. Happy days, my friend. You know what? With all the goings on in the world, I had no idea that this was going to be the show that we are going to have today.
Well, Dom, each day, the day sort of presents the headlines, and we react to them in real time. Dom, let's talk about a few of the headlines. President Joe Biden in Milwaukee for a town hall last night. You and I both watched. I'm proud of us.
You're welcome.
Almost like we do a political talk show. Tony Evers did give his budgetary address. The governor of the great state of Wisconsin gave less effort. I did watch some, but, you know, interrupting what the kids were watching on TV. They said, Dad, keep it down. So I turned Tony off. But beyond that, we got a fine candidate. Another Democrat has jumped in the pool to be the opponent of U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. And this guy is Alex Lasry. And we're going to introduce you to the candidate for U.S. Senate, a Dem, a pretty good Dem. We like Alex. He's been in studio with us before. He'll join us, I believe, via Zoom a little bit later in this big show, 2:30. But Dominic, here is the headline. Rush Limbaugh is dead. Tragedy in the talk radio world.
The Wicked Witch is dead. Although certainly not unexpected. Wasn't expecting to get that news today. He's been on the radio, to my understanding, fairly recently. So yeah, and I struggle, man. I'm trying to, and I have been thinking about the best way to acknowledge his passing and do right by, good karma and all that, right? I don't want to dance on the man's grave, but I'm glad he's dead. So long, you racist bastard. So yeah, that's what I've settled on. I'm glad he's dead.
Perhaps I'll take a differing tack. A more nuanced approach, if you will, Dominic. First and foremost, I don't revel in any person's passing, of course, but he was the king of conservative talk. He was the king. He saved the AM radio dial in no small way. So as a person who does a live radio show 3 hours each and every day with you, my little buddy, I got to tell you, I admired Rush Limbaugh greatly. I couldn't believe that guy could go on the radio 3 hours each and every day. Didn't even have a co-host like I have the benefit of. On a handful of oxycodones, man. I mean, I admire the fact that he was the greatest functional drug addict and perhaps the biggest hypocrite in history.
I like to think I'm a fairly decent functional drug addict myself.
Well,
Rudy.
come
I mean,
on.
come on, man. I mean, present company excluded. Come on. But the man made a living, made millions dehumanizing liberals and demeaning women and peddling in racist rants. And that's how he made his money. So, yeah, I mean, I get the fact, this is before the interwebs, and certainly he lost some audience due to the technological shifting of younger audiences. But let's not gloss over what the guy was and who he was. And when people like Donald Trump come out and say glowing things about him, you have to wonder, don't you? Don't you really? I mean, and I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the one. I don't want karma coming to get my ass. I don't want death knocking on my door because I was talking trash today. And I recognize that. And it goes against the very kind of Zen way I strive to be. But damn it, sometimes it's okay. Rush Limbaugh is dead. I'm glad he's not on the radio anymore. And if he were still alive, I hope they burn in hell. If he were still alive and not on the radio, I'd be glad about that too. But it was literally his death that drug his ass off the radio. And the impact that man has had on the political scene has been a disaster for this country.
Dominic, I've never considered another human being's mortality more, perhaps excepting Donald Trump, than Rush Limbaugh. I mean, the fact that for over a year, we've known that he's had stage 4 lung cancer. The fact that we knew that there was some conclusion in the foreseeable future. And his wife came out and made the announcement on his show today. That's how they announced it to the world. And I first saw it, iHeartRadio, the heartless conglomerate that owns the Rush Limbaugh show through one of their subsidiaries. They got a big problem. I mean, Rush Limbaugh, no hyperbole intended here, was the most influential person potentially in politics. And suddenly there is this gaping hole in the AM radio dial. And Dominic, the question becomes, will we be anointed the new kings and talk?
Well, already, I'm sure.
The king is dead. Long live the king.
The king is dead. Long live the king.
Rush Limbaugh did it 31 years. I'm about 10 years in to this little endeavor with you, buddy. And if I could lock in, considering the lifestyle Rush lived, and a similar lifestyle, maybe minus the Oxycontins that I've chosen to live, if I could lock in 70 and die with $500 million and have half the political world resent me at my death and revel in my death, much like you are doing to Rush Limbaugh today, then I would feel like I lived a full life.
I'm pretty sure that more than half of the political world will revel in your death, Crudy, given the friends that we've not made over the years. But that aside,
hey, you can't hold all of that against me. You've pissed off a few people yourself.
I don't believe it.
I might have, it might be a 60-40 split, but you've done your share.
So it goes against my grain a little bit to be like that. But if you just Google, horrible things that Donald Trump, that as well, Rush Limbaugh. And Rush Limbaugh, I mean, he paved the way for Donald Trump, right? I mean, this man is much responsible for the dumbing down of this country is the former president is. I mean, when if anybody, tries to, be better or expand or provide services through the government to people, Rush would just come off with a little tagline, something funny to say. And certainly, to those who listen to his show, he was an entertainer. All right. So I'm okay. I can justify my bombastic reaction to Rush's death because Rush would want it that way. Let me just be like Rush. If anyone's going to criticize me for dancing on the man's grave, what would Rush do?
You are a horrible human being. I can't believe I call you my third best friend. How you doing, Fancy Brian?
Oh, I'm glorious.
That's It's glory. We do have obviously a big show ahead. We have one caller on. Let's get him in here. Our buddy LA Tom from the left coast. Welcome, Tom. What are your thoughts today?
Hey, Tom.
First off, guys, we the people are the government, and we must never forget that. Second, Republicans are bad for business. What I'd like to say, honestly, is nothing about the other guy who just left the earth, because I think he was very toxic. And the world's a better place today because that person's no longer here. But I'd like to ask, are you guys going to be doing an interview, or are you guys reaching out to Rick Lasry, who has now thrown his hat in for the Senate?
Alex Lasry, and he's coming on at 2:30 Central Time. Where were you for the top of the show,
Come
LA,
on, Tom. You got to listen 3 hours a day. That's all we asked for.
Man, okay. All right, good. That's what I wanted to hear.
Tom, not only do we have...
Is that the guy you guys interviewed before?
No,
Was he,
that's Tom Nelson, the Outagamie. Tom, that's the Outagamie County executive, was the prior dim entrant into the pool to take on probably Ron Johnson. Ron hasn't let his intentions be known other than his current crazy and minimizing the insurrection at the Capitol. But Tom Nelson, a declared candidate. Now, Alex Lasry, who I believe was a staffer in the Obama White House and is probably most well known because he is the VP of operations. I mean, he has the advantage. When he announced his candidacy, ESPN made a push on people's cell phones. I mean, this is news in the sports world today, Lasry's candidacy. So, yeah, we'll introduce him till many of the audience today at 2:30. And then, Tom, stick around 3 o'clock Central Time. Political talker Bill Press. We're going to talk more about the whole Rush Limbaugh, the gleeful passing thereof, according to Dominic.
Yeah, I don't even know who that guy is. I think that guy is just completely invisible to me now. I'm glad that he's gone.
You don't mean Bill Press?
No, not.
Oh, come on, Tom. We appreciate it, man. Make sure you stick around. Alex Lasry, the new candidate for U.S. Senate from the great state of Wisconsin, going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Perhaps we'll get into some of the sound from the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, at the town hall from yesterday in Milwaukee. And Rush Limbaugh, I'm glad you're dead.
That's harsh.
Isn't it?
I can't believe Tom's treating him like he's Voldemort or something. The man whose name cannot be said on the radio.
Do not say it.
The king is dead. Rush Limbaugh was the king of talk radio, and we will do just fine. In fact, we will flourish without Rush on the airwaves. But conservative talk, it's got a big problem. It started today. Come back with us. No, you will. Joe Biden Town Hall in Milwaukee will bring you some of the coverage from last night's big event.
Smells like someone died.
Well,
when you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials, Lutema has mask sizes for all. Lutema masks pass ASTM Level 3 and NIOSH efficiency standards and come in a wide variety of colors and types, including M95i. Get your American-made face mask at Lutema.com. That's Lutema.com. And get 40% off your first purchase single item with promo code RADIO at Lutema.com.
America has chosen Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to lead our country. Now it's time to get to work. Time to expand healthcare and tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Time to restore our democracy and unify our nation. It's time to put this administration to work for us. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to DARNWI.com.
Bring it? Oh, it's already been brought in.
John Nichols, the national affairs correspondent with The Nation.
My fear is we got 50 million or more agitated Trumpsters, and reality is going to kick in. And then where do they turn that angst, John?
Oh, shoveling snow, probably. We have to accept that we've entered the internet troll stage of this country's history. I think most of these people kind of go back to wearing tinfoil hats or whatever and, living their lives. They're really not that threatening.
The Devil's Advocates. The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open, 844-967-2789.
Happy 420 to our listeners in Nova Scotia. Got to get a little beyond the eastern seaboard, but
just
it's
be proactive.
somewhere.
Curry, you wouldn't be the first time, man. You're all right.
Dominic, we are, air quotes, celebrating the life and passing of Rush Limbaugh.
That's one way to put it.
We're going to have Bill Press on in the 3:00 hour. We'll talk to Bill then. But in the meantime, Joe Biden, the president, came to Milwaukee. They shoveled out the airport, 22 inches at Mitchell Field. It had lots of good stuff to say. We're going to play you some of the sound from last night. We both watched. We did our homework. I'm so proud of us. Fancy Brian, going to need your help. Let's get started. Joe Biden, his commitment to keep the Justice Department, independent? That's a novel thought. Cut 10.
I made a commitment. I will not ever tell my Justice Department, and it's not mine, it's the People's Justice Department, who they should and should not prosecute.
A little bit later on, Joe was forced to talk about Donald Trump, and he's kind of tired of talking about Donald Trump. Cut 12.
I'm tired of talking about Donald Trump. Don't want to talk about him anymore. But the last administration spent a lot of time, talking about how there was no need for inspector generals.
Now, Joe Biden was pressed on a number of what I would perceive to be progressive issues. And he didn't come off as overly progressive. Certainly he wasn't buying into the vocabulary. But let's start with $15 an hour minimum wage. It's part of the larger coronavirus reconciliation proposal. We'll see if it sticks. Let's see what Biden had to say last night in Milwaukee. Cut 13, please.
I do support a $15 minimum wage. I think there is equally as much, if not more, evidence to dictate that it would grow the economy and long run and medium run benefit small businesses as well as large businesses.
So he's for it, but I'm not clear if Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema see it that way. That's going to be a very important issue the next couple of weeks.
No doubt. And again, looking at how the Dems should be playing it, my humble opinion, you got to play some hardball, even specifically with people like Joe Manchin. This is something that is needed. It is helpful. And I'm really, really tired of everyone paying, not everyone, but lots of employers paying poverty wages and forcing the employees working full time to engage with the safety net programs. If you're working full time, you should be making livable wages.
A couple of other progressive issues: defund the police, not according to Joe Biden, not last night at least. Cut number 14, please, Brian.
We have to put more money in police work, so we have legitimate community policing, and we're in a situation where we changed the legislation. No one should go to jail for a drug offense. No one should go to jail for the use of a drug. They should go to drug rehabilitation.
That's what Rush Limbaugh did. Got away scot-free, little or no consequence, didn't lose his show. Didn't pay any.
Doctor shopping, buying boxes of Oxycontin. Yeah, you think a little white privilege there?
Come on, he had Consuela doing that for him.
Right.
Let's jump way ahead here, Fancy Brian. Want to cover the issue of student debt. And I know our pal, Scott Ross from Wisconsin, he was, tweeting as he often does about student loan debt. And this issue, it's a huge issue. It's a big issue for Wisconsin. And Joe Biden was pressed on the issue. A woman asked a question about a $50,000 forgiveness proposition. Now, that's not Joe Biden's proposition. Here's what he said last night. Cut 27, Fancy Brian.
We should be eliminating interest on the debts that are accumulated, number one. And number two, I'm prepared to write off the $10,000 debt.
I guess we don't have the entirety of the clip. He did say very clearly he ain't down for forgiving $50,000 in debt. And he thought he could do $10,000 through executive order, but it does not seem as if he's hopeful or even going to attempt to put a $50,000 debt forgiveness in the broader COVID bill through reconciliation.
Yeah.
So,
but again, this is also, we have to remember, this is Joe Biden, right? He's the centrist. He's not the socialist. So he's not going to go along with every single proposal. I'm not surprised. I guess 10 is better than nothing. And all these situations and scenarios and questions we have on policy and leadership, at least it's Joe Biden, a fairly confident human being and not the self-absorbed former last guy.
No, I did think Joe Biden did well overall. I came away with a favorable impression of the town hall. One of the moments I actually was quite impressed. A woman stood up and she asked Joe Biden about coronavirus, and her daughter was with her. Let's see if we can sneak in one more bite here before our fine guest, Alex Lasry, Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. Cut 28, Joe Biden at the town hall in Milwaukee.
What's your first name?
Layla.
Layla, beautiful name. First of all, kids don't get the vaccine, get COVID very often. It's unusual for that to happen.
And then he went on to reassure this young lady that, kids are going to be okay. And he did advocate for at least consideration of reopening of the schools. That's obviously been a hot button issue. That's the latest wedge issue of the right. Reopen the schools. It's a bad thing when Scott Walker's advocating for it. Has that man ever been right on any topic ever?
And certainly then vaccinate everybody who works in the schools. One more, if you would, please, Brian. Last night in Milwaukee, the president, now is the time to spend. Cut number 33, if you would.
That overwhelming consensus is, in order to grow the economy a year, 2, 3, and 4 down the line, we can't spend too much. Now's the time we should be spending.
Now is the time.
Get out your checkbook, Joe Manchin.
Yeah, Joe. Step up. Call the bluff, Joe Biden.
Play hardball. Dance on people's graves like Dominic does.
Only when it's deserved. How often do I dance on anybody's grave? Not very.
This is the first time I really recall you doing a full jig on a grave on the radio.
Yeah. Hey, F that guy. That's what I got to say about that.
Come back with us. Alex Lasry, U.S. senatorial candidate from the great state of Wisconsin. He wants to go against Ron Johnson. Alex Lasry, more Devils on the other side.
Glad you did.
Fuck that guy.
From Wanakee to McFarland, 92.7 FM is essential radio to get you through the pandemic.
Hey, Dom, is your carpeting starting to have a little bit of a funk to it?
That's a bit of a personal question, Crudy.
No, I know this is really busy time for one of our sponsors, Zero Res of Madison. People want a cleaner, healthier home.
You mean spending the entire quarantine locked in with bacteria and allergens isn't healthy? Who knew?
You want to get it professionally cleaned well before it gets funky. Even if you vacuum frequently,
I vacuum a lot.
You still need to get it professionally cleaned. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Stop in for a cold drink, stay a while for lunch or dinner. Awesome pizzas, juicy burgers, tasty apps, and a fish fry that is out of this world. Staying home for dinner tonight? No problem. Place an order for pickup or delivery at LazyOafLounge.com. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, Madison. Order online at LazyOafLounge.com.
Cold,
I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. At least 20 people are dead in weather-related incidents across the country. Millions still without power in Texas, and that lack of power is affecting water service. Houston Public Works Director Carol Haddock says when the power went down, the backup generators failed to
Hello,
kick in.
welcome, Alex.
We have generators throughout the system, and they did not start.
How are you feeling today?
Cold for the generators to start.
Most of the continental U.S. is caught in a polar vortex, and another storm is rolling out of the southern plains.
Pulled in a million directions, but confident as well. Good for you, man.
Move northeastward over the next 2 days and spread heavy snow.
All right.
Into parts.
We got a couple minutes here, and we'll be back in about
Ohio
2.
Valley into the Mid-Atlantic.
Do you have any walk-up music? Any walk-up music? Yeah, like 2 minutes.
The severe weather has also caused delays in shipping coronavirus vaccines across the country and has temporarily shut down some vaccination locations. I'm Tim McGuire.
Are you one of the millions of Americans who experience occasional bloating, gas, or abdominal discomfort? Join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up and see how healthy your gut can feel. Align contains a quality probiotic strain developed by gastroenterologists. It adds more good bacteria to your gut to naturally help soothe your occasional digestive upsets with continued daily usage. This is the time to join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Sign up at alignprobiotics.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like,
Alex, quick question.
Find a needle in a haystack.
Do you have any walk-up music or songs you want to hear on the way?
Technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
Stone Cold Shatter Glass?
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a
I'll find that for you. No problem.
first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, February 17th. Wisconsin state health officials have announced a third reported case of the B.1.1.7 variant of the coronavirus, known commonly as the UK variant. This case was reported in Milwaukee, with the first 2 being reported in Eau Claire and Waukesha. Based on scientific studies, researchers believe the B.1.1.7 variant spreads more rapidly and easily than the original strain of the coronavirus. Milwaukee Bucks executive Alex Lasry entered the race for U.S. Senate Wednesday with a vow to bring a fresh perspective and a new way of thinking to the nation's capital. Lasry enters the field of Wisconsin Democratic candidates looking to unseat Senator Ron Johnson in 2022. Lasry will appear on the Devil's Advocates radio show at 2:30 this afternoon. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Happy hump day to us all. Dominic, we have been joined live via Zoom by a fine guest. He is Alex Lasry. He's the newest U.S. senatorial candidate in the great state of Wisconsin. Alex, welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show.
Thanks for having me. That music got me really pumped up.
Thanks for joining us, Alex.
Alex, seems like an obvious question, but I'm going to lead with an easy one. What was it about Ron Johnson's governance that inspired your candidacy, sir?
Now, we only have 15 minutes, Alex.
I was going to say, like, how deep do we want to go into this? Look, I think generally the problem is, like, we clearly just need to change. For 10 years, we've had a senator who's had no interest in representing the people of Wisconsin. Someone who hasn't gotten anything done. And really, I think his only claim is that he's peddled in conspiracy theories and lies. And so, what I think we need is, as I said in my opening video, we need a fresh way of thinking, a new perspective, and someone who can actually get things done. I think, the voters and people of Wisconsin, I think, are really sick and tired of, not having things accomplished, and having politicians make promises with nothing getting done. And so, that's why I'm running. And, when you look at, I think my record of not just talking about a $15 minimum wage, but we're actually paying it, not just talking about creating good union jobs, but actually creating thousands of them and working with our friends in labor, being on the front lines of racial and social justice and bringing the convention here. You see someone who's been able to think big, think different, while also delivering results.
Alex, some of the audience may be aware of your association with the Milwaukee Bucks. And of course, you help lead the DNC convention committee, my understanding. But what about your political chops, sir? Experience have you had prior in the political realm, Alex?
Yeah, so I worked in the Obama administration. My first job out of college. I started off as an intern, and then worked my way up to become one of Valerie's top deputies, and it was the experience of a lifetime. And I got a great sense of how Washington works, and then made sure that as I kind of continued my career, that I kind of took those values and put that into the business. So when we look at the Bucks, we were able to show that you can run a successful business by using progressive values, and I think you see that in our commitment to Wisconsin from a corporate a corporate governance standpoint, from our partnerships with unions and ensuring that people are being paid a fair wage, to our social justice work. I think you see kind of those values that I took from working in the Obama administration and trying to bring that into the Bucks organization.
Alex, I did call around. I called a few friends in labor, and anonymously, they did have nice things to say about you, especially through the construction phase of the Bucks Arena, the Fiserv Forum. Tell people about your association with that franchise, please.
Yeah, so when my family bought the team, what we wanted to make sure we did was kind of continue on in Senator Cole's legacy of ensuring that the Bucks were a great public good, and one that set a great corporate citizenship example for the rest of the state. And that's why when we're talking about a $15 minimum wage, that's something that we're hoping that we can show. Look, the Deer District and Fiserv Forum, one of the best developments in Wisconsin, can pay a $15 minimum wage and be successful. So this idea that paying a living wage hurts job growth, we're able to show that that's a fallacy. And what we were able to do, I think, during the building of Fiserv Forum was showing how we can think differently. We went into communities and did these town halls where we were trying to, find workers and talk to them and network with them on getting on the site. And you saw a number of them in our opening video, who I met at town halls and were able to get in front of us. And that's the type of, I think, new thinking and fresh perspective that we need to bring to Washington.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Alex Lasry, the new U.S. senatorial candidate from the state of Wisconsin, joining us via the Zoom. Alex, you talked about getting to Washington, getting things done. What are your priorities if you were to win this Senate seat?
Well, I think, number one priorities are going to be how are we raising wages and bringing jobs back to this state. So, we talked a little bit about a workers' bill of rights in our announcement video. And so, that if I'm elected, I'm a vote for a $15 minimum wage. I'm a vote for the PRO Act, unlike Senator Ron Johnson. I think what we also need is to try to think creatively about how we're bringing jobs back here. So I talked about in the opening video about making corporations earn their tax cut and not just giving them out. If a corporation wants to apply for a tax cut, pay your workers $20 an hour, bring your manufacturing and assembly operations and invest in the United States, bring those jobs back here. And if you're investing in America, then you can apply for a tax cut. But right now, too many people are taking the cheap and easy way out and moving these jobs and everything overseas. I think the other priorities, look, there are a ton to list. We're talking about access to to healthcare facilities. We were able to bring one of Freighter's first healthcare facilities into downtown Milwaukee when they partnered with us on our practice facility. Environmental justice, racial social justice, and education. I think these are all things that where we want what some of our driving principles are going to be. How are we ensuring that everyone, no matter your zip code, has the same opportunity as anyone else?
Alex, one of the big hindrances in getting things done in Washington historically has been the filibuster. What are your thoughts on keeping it or getting rid of the filibuster?
And look, I think it's time to get rid of it. When they first created the Constitution in this form of government, they didn't say 60 votes. They didn't say a supermajority. And I personally think it's created an incentive to not get things done. The incentive now is to block legislation, whereas I think if you get rid of the filibuster, you're creating now an incentive, I think more of an incentive to work together and try to get things done. And then at the end of the day, look, if the voter, if you're running, if I'm running on a $15 minimum wage and, and the PRO Act and all of that, and the voters vote, that in, we should be able to pass that. And then in the next election, voters should decide if they liked it or not. And I think right now, what you get with the filibuster is a disincentive to get things done and act on the will of the voters.
Alex, Medicare for all. There have been some proposals. Obviously, President Obama, perhaps when you were in the office, pushed through the ACA. We haven't had it. Joe Biden seemingly is not for a Medicare for all. Where do you stand on that, sir?
I think that first and foremost, we need to start from a policy of healthcare is a human right, and healthcare is something that everyone should have access to. And I think it's a travesty that that's not something that everyone can have. So, I start from a belief of healthcare as a human right. What I also believe, though, is I think President Biden is right. I do think that there is that we should be taking the Affordable Care Act and building off that. And I think a public option is a great way to do that and to ensure that that healthcare is a right. But I think while also giving, like an organization like the Bucks, like we use and have a great healthcare option as a way to try to get the best talent. And I think that should be an option that, someone like the Bucks have to ensure that that they can use that as a way to bring people into their organization. But then if you leave the Bucks, you shouldn't be then taken off healthcare. This is the 21st century. You should be able to easily transition into a public option or another healthcare option.
Alex, one more for me before I turn it back over to Crudy. The legalization, regulation, and taxation of cannabis here in the state of Wisconsin and around the country. Where do you stand on that one, sir?
Look, I think it's about time that we legalize weed. Plain and simple. This isn't just an economic issue. This is also a racial justice issue. For too long, the Black community has been penalized by this nonsensical abolition of weed and making it illegal. And so, I think one of the best things we can do for our economy is to legalize it. I think one of the best things we can do from a racial justice standpoint is to legalize it and clear people's records, for minor offenses of weed. And I think as we do that, we also need to make sure that we're taking into consideration that as this industry starts to get legalized, that the Black community is able to prosper and make sure that they're able to get licenses to be able to sell weed, and that this isn't just something that is going to benefit white people who have access to make sure that they can that they can get those licenses.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. New Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate, Alex Lasry, live via Zoom. Alex, as the news broke, as you dropped this video today, I saw lots of social media posts, both friends on the right and the left, and some were critical of your candidacy. And they want to tag you as the fortunate son of a billionaire. And some were very quick to point out that the FICE reform was subsidized in part with taxpayer dollars. Alex, whether it's the left or the right bringing this criticism, how do you answer it, sir?
No, I just tell people look at my record, and that's why we're getting in now to have that conversation with voters and to talk to people about, when we did that public-private partnership, I think everyone would say, this has been a benefit for Wisconsin. We're able to now make Wisconsin and put it on the map in a way that it otherwise couldn't have. And when we built FICE reform, we sourced 80% of the materials from Wisconsin. So that's partnering and businesses with all across the state. We're paying living wages in Wisconsin and showing that is a good business practice. And so, I think when you look at the record of not only just talking the talk but walking the walk and getting things done, I think that's going to be something that appeals to voters. And I think that's also why you're seeing so much support of this campaign early on, is because people who have worked with me and know my values and have worked with me to get big things done know that I'd be the person in Washington who can do things on behalf of Wisconsinites.
Okay, Alex, let's let you brag about some of the endorsements you rolled out on day one.
So, I couldn't be more thrilled to have, the support of County Executive David Crowley, Common Council President Cavalier Johnson, alderwomen's, Nakia Harris and Joe Costa. We've got, Martha Love and Corrie Pennebaker, and not to mention Dan Bukevich, who's the head of the building trades and mayor of Oak Creek. But in addition, over the next, 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to be rolling out a number of other endorsements from across the state to show, I think, the breadth of our support, not just in Milwaukee, but all over the state.
Now, Alex, you're a relatively young guy, 33. I hate to say that about anyone.
I like to think so.
You're clearly an ambitious guy. You're running for the U.S. Senate. Tell us about your family life. I understand you got a young bride or bride-to-be at home.
Yeah. So, my wife, Lauren, I like to joke that the Journal Sentinel article today had me at 34, which I was upset about because then I couldn't tell Lauren that she's older than me. But, we couldn't be more thrilled to be welcoming our first daughter into the world in July. And, it's awesome to be able to know that, we're going to be raising and building our family, right here in Wisconsin. And, I met Lauren in college. We were best friends for, 6 years. And then I was able to wear her down and convince her to finally go out with me. And, it's for me, it's the love story that you dream of. And, when I think also just about my family, my dad coming here with nothing, immigrated here from Morocco, and, now his son is, having the opportunity to run for the U.S. Senate. I don't think that's something my grandparents thought would be possible when, they were living in Morocco and trying to figure out how they were going to create a better life for their kids.
Well, I share that with you. I also married well through persistence, Alex Lasry. Sir, let me ask you.
The only way to do it.
Daniel Bice wrote up an article. You had the good fortune of receiving a COVID-19 vaccine. And as a relatively young person, apparently that's political news in the state of Wisconsin. So let's address it now. Let's get it out of the way, sir.
Yeah. So look, unfortunately with this vaccine, you only have 6 hours to get the shots in arms. And so they did a great job of going through their lists, getting everyone at the home vaccinated, going through their backup lists. And, at the end of the day, still had shots that they had a very limited amount of time to actually get in arms. And my wife got a call, and I made a decision in the moment to protect my family, to protect my daughter, and to make sure no shots go to waste. And, when I've talked to medical ethicists and state guidelines and Dr. Fauci, everyone says, we cannot let shots go to waste. And so that was the decision I made.
Alex, I suspect the young bride at home wants you to get donations for this campaign and not sell fun. Give them the website quick.
Yeah, so if everyone could just go to, alexlasry.com, sign up to volunteer, donate. This is going to be something that we're trying to build from the ground up and have people all across Wisconsin participate in.
Alex Lasry, U.S. senatorial candidate, Devil's Advocates. We'll be right back. Thank you.
The Devil's Advocates.
Eric from Madison tells us he's a former Capitol Police officer.
You can't even compare the two.
Thank you very much.
Yesterday.
Awesome.
Appreciate the time.
Darren, did you, as a Capitol Police officer, ever witness any violence in the Wisconsin State Capitol?
Nope, not at all. It's about as peaceful can be when it comes to peaceful protesting. It was an unlawful assembly. But at the end of the day, there was no violence at the end of the day. It was people coming in and singing.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
We did it. All across this nation, voters like you turned out in record numbers to elect Joe Biden. Now, it's time to come together to address the issue that matter most, tackling climate change, expanding access to healthcare, ensuring racial justice, and putting Americans back to work. Text ACT to 668366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Hold.moveon.org not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever. Eric Holder, he's the former U.S. Attorney General and current chair of the National Democratic Redistricting Committee.
The notion that Scott Walker is saying that we are doing something to push partisan gerrymandering, that is the pot calling the kettle total black. I mean, that's absurd. He is one of the architects among the most gerrymandered states in the union. All we're pushing for is a fair process come 2021.
Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates. Rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open at 844-967-2789. Bill Press going to join us at the top of the 3 o'clock hour.
Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fun one, Alex Lasry, U.S. senatorial candidate. He's the Dem, or at least one of two options. And I suspect that will be a growing field of Democrats. We hear Sarah Godlewski, the Wisconsin treasurer. I like to say she's got a lot of it being charisma. She's very dynamic. I like her. I like Alex Lasry. And of course, our pal, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. Word on the street is he's also considering a run, Dom. Obviously, Tom Nelson, the Outagamie County executive, who was formerly the Assembly Majority Leader back when Democrats actually had some power in the state of Wisconsin. So Tom Nelson's got his own resume. There might be others. And the question becomes, Rojo, Ron Johnson. I mean, really balls in Rojo's court. Is he or isn't he going to run for re-election? I suspect all this malarkey of late is a tell. I think he's running again. I think he feels like he needs the Trumpsters. Certainly he doesn't feel like he needs his reputation any longer.
So you think it's all to lay the foundation down for another run, not to cover his ass for any specific liabilities he may have incurred in supporting the big lie?
I don't think he feels like he has any culpability. I mean, hell, it was barely an insurrection, according to Ron Johnson, right?
There was a breach.
Just some idiots showing up and stand between the lines, according to Ron. You know, at least the TV show he was watching.
Until they didn't.
I think Ron's running for something. I suspect it's Senate. It might be the governor's race here in the state of Wisconsin. Our governor, Tony Evers, is up for re-election next year. And I think that Ron Johnson and perhaps the former lieutenant governor under Scott Walker, Rebecca Clayfish, she's in it to win it. I have no doubt about that. Others, maybe including Assembly Majority Leader Robin Foss, sort of the dictator-in-chief, Boss Foss, he likes to think of himself as. I think he'll be running. So I think it will be a hell of a political atmosphere here in the state of Wisconsin next year. And you see, there's already dark money flowing in to oppose Rojo. There's already $1 million spent. They're already up on television. Apparently, the encouragement is for Rojo to vote for stimulus for people of the great state of Wisconsin. He famously, uniquely blocked $1,200 direct stimulus payments when that was the proposition before Congress.
According to the ad I saw today, yeah, they're blasting all over the state right now.
Are they right to do so, Dom? I think there will be millions of dollars that flow into the great state of Wisconsin to oppose Ron Johnson. I mean,
I do look forward to the Democrats lining up and competing with each other to run against whoever. If it's not Ron Johnson, certainly there'll be another Republican running. But I'm really anxious to see how these different Democratic candidates differentiate themselves from each other, because obviously they're all Dems and there's different factions and wings and thoughts and philosophies. So to get some side by sides and see how this thing plays out over the next 18 months is going to be very interesting.
You know how I recommend to these Dems, these senatorial wannabes, you know how I think they should differentiate themselves? Through the great value that is radio advertising.
Yes, I know.
I mean, we got a very engaged progressive audience statewide.
We do.
And really nationwide. But anyways, boys, girls that might think you're the one that could beat Rojo, you ain't winning the nomination without coming through the Devil's Advocates.
844-967-2789. Bill Press is going to join us at 3 o'clock. In the meantime, let's take some calls. Mark from the Sac, you are next. Welcome. Happy Hump Day, Mark. What do you got?
Hey, Mark.
Happy Hump Days. Happy Hump Days, guys. And I'm, ambivalent as far as for Rush there, because I know cancer's a bitch. That, and I'm on monitoring right now for, the rest of my life, I imagine that. But I mean that. Yeah, I remember. Rush Limbaugh reveled in other people's misery. I mean, he got away with stuff that other people wouldn't have gotten away with. I mean, he got, a little suspended sentence or whatever it was when he. But he wasn't supposed to have any more contact with drugs again. But then, of course, he got caught with
Viagra.
the Viagra thing coming back from a sex tourist destination.
But he only utilized one pill, apparently.
Oh, too bad.
Big day.
Well,
if you're going to be a sex tourist, you'd like to get your money's worth, Mark. I guess that's the only point. If you got to pay for it, why not pay for it each and every day? I think he's got the means.
Because he violated the terms of his probation or whatever it was.
But the laws are for other people, Mark, not for half a billionaires like Limbaugh, right?
Yeah, it's just horrible, and hopefully you guys are the new crown princes that will be taking over Russia's slot because
we don't do
nationwide.
We don't do 11 to 2.
Top,
11. That's a little early, Mark. Thanks for the call.
Tom Hartman will have to be the new Rush Limbaugh because that's not our slot. We do the afternoons, and some say we do it better than anyone ever has in the history of political talk. Mostly us. Mostly us, but we appreciate our talent.
No, come on, man. I heard the announcer. It says it every single day.
Here's one small thing I was encouraged about. Not the death of Rush Limbaugh, like some on this panel, but the fact that Rush Limbaugh lived long enough to see Donald Trump defeated and see Joe Biden's inauguration. All of those things encouraging to me personally.
But wasn't Rush also towards the end, reiterating or hinting at the big lie? I mean, again, part of the problem, and yes, Mark's right. I mean, cancer, I mean, there's hell of a lot of crazy ass diseases out there. And, you don't want people to suffer. I mean, I totally don't want that, but, and there is a but, what about the things that the man is responsible for? The things that he has said, the lies that he has told, the foundation he has built, not just for people like the fascist Donald Trump, who just pulled off a failed fascist insurrection coup. Thank you, Matt Rothschild. A failed fascist coup at the encouragement of guys like Rush Limbaugh and all the other righty talkers out there. Of course, who do they emulate? Rush Limbaugh. He showed the way. He showed the way for all of that. And he should pay a price for that. Well, now he won't. He's dead with $500 million.
I thought you didn't believe in heaven or hell, man.
What a waste of money.
I know that you're an atheist, but the fact that Rush could face eternal damnation, does it give you any glee at all?
No, because he didn't. And, he's not going to face heaven or hell. He's just gone. That's what happens. He's just gone. And how will history look back on Rush Limbaugh? Rush doesn't care. He's dead.
You don't care much about history. If you don't know history, you ain't woke, Salvia. Come back with us.
History.
Our pal Bill Press, he will tell us about the impact of Rush Limbaugh and perhaps what comes next for conservative talk radio. Bill Press, he's the legend. He's our pal. Come back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates is next.
Rush Limbaugh was right all along. Conservative republicanism is the answer.
Fuck that guy.
Biden won because of you. Because you stayed in line to vote even when you got tired. Because you knew that your vote is power. Because you understood what was at stake. And because you showed up, we now have the power. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Stop flushing money away. Replace your old water-wasting toilet, and Madison Water Utility will give you a $100 bill credit. Madison Water Utility's popular toilet rebate program is back for 2021. We've saved more than 1 billion gallons of water just by getting rid of old toilets. Get your $100 credit by upgrading to an EPA WaterSense model, Bill credits are first come, first serve until funding runs out. Find out more at MadisonWater.org. Madison Water Utility customers only.
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at doubleradio927.com.
I'm Tim McGuire. More than 3 million homes and businesses across the country are without electricity because of the winter storm and deep freeze that overwhelmed power systems from the plains to especially hard-hit Texas. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner.
I understand people's frustrations and people's anger, but we'll continue to work together to work through it. So power outages remain a major concern.
Another storm front is expected to bring more hardship to states that are unaccustomed to such frigid weather, parts of Texas, Arkansas, and the lower Mississippi Valley, before moving into the Northeast tomorrow. National Weather Service lead forecaster Bob Oravec.
It's expected to move northeastward over the next 2 days and spread heavy snow out of the plains into parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, into the mid-Atlantic. Over the next 24 hours, and then up towards New York City by Thursday afternoon, Boston.
At least 20 people are dead, including those killed in crashes, fires, and carbon monoxide poisoning. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas says investigators with his agency and Immigration and Customs agents have seized some 11 million counterfeit N95 respirator masks.
The seizures of these counterfeit surgical masks ensures the health and safety of our frontline healthcare workers who so bravely combat the pandemic by preventing them from receiving inferior personal protective equipment.
Federal investigators have seen an increase in phony websites claiming to sell the vaccines, fake medicine, and scams involving personal protective equipment. Rush Limbaugh, the conservative talk radio host who ripped into liberals and laid waste to political correctness with gleeful malice that made him one of the most powerful voices and a driver in the rise of Donald Trump, died today. He was 70. This is AP News.
Are you one of the millions of Americans who experience occasional bloating, gas, or abdominal discomfort? Join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up and see how healthy your gut can feel. Align contains a quality probiotic strain developed by gastroenterologists. It adds more good bacteria to your gut to naturally help soothe your occasional digestive upsets with continued daily usage. This is the time to join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Sign up at alignprobiotics.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter.
How you doing, Bill?
Technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates.
Welcome to the party.
So while other companies might deliver
a very somber,
ZipRecruiter
very somber party.
The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5
morning
who post a job on ZipRecruiter.
It is morning somewhere,
within
yes.
the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at
Morning,
ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Yeah, that's how the British spell morning. Yes, I get it.
Free.
Yeah, good.
White House COVID.
This is Brad from Zero Res Carpet Cleaning. If you like a fresh and clean home and you like to save money, now's the best time of year to get your carpets clean.
All right, my friend, you got about 3 minutes here.
Save money and get the best cleaning in Madison.
Thank you so much for your time.
608-848-9000.
When you're having computer problems, you need a company you trust to get things working again, quickly and affordably. Madison Computer Works has been doing that for business and residential customers for decades. Our computer care plans take away the hassle of being without your computer or needing to bring it in for repair. Starting at only $10 a month, our local and friendly techs provide remote help and can fix most problems in just minutes. Call 608-231-8000 and sign up today. Madison Computer Works, computers that work for you.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Stop in for a cold drink, stay a while for lunch or dinner. Awesome pizzas, juicy burgers, tasty apps, and a fish fry that is out of this world. Staying home for dinner tonight? No problem. Place an order for pickup or delivery at LazyOafLounge.com. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, Madison. Order online at LazyOafLounge.com.
Nobody's listening.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, February 17th. State Superintendent candidates Jill Underly and Deborah Kerr will advance to the spring general election. That will take place on Tuesday, April 6th, and will determine who will be Wisconsin's next top education official. State lawmakers voted Tuesday to cut taxes by hundreds of millions of dollars, primarily to help businesses that receive forgivable loans under the federal Paycheck Protection Program. The Republican-controlled Senate also passed a slate of bills that would require Democratic Governor Tony Evers to create a plan to stop state employees from working at home, ban state and local health officials from requiring COVID-19 vaccine shots, and stop state health officials from prioritizing prisoners in the vaccine rollout. Forecast of partly cloudy skies throughout the day today. High today of 19 degrees, low of 4 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, we are welcoming a fine guest, a friend of the Devil's Advocates. He is Bill Press, a talk radio host, liberal pundit, CNN political contributor, and most importantly, Bill, we consider you a friend of the Devil's Advocates.
I am indeed. Yeah. No. I am a Devil's Advocate.
Thanks, Bill.
Well, obviously,
hi, Dom. Hi, Crute.
Hey, awesome to see you, Bill. Obviously, there's some big breaking news. Rush Limbaugh has passed, and the response of this panel has ranged from respectfully reserved to ghoulishly gleeful. Bill, where do you find yourself on the spectrum today?
I have to admit that I'm on the ghoulishly gleeful side of this. But I got to tell you, first of all, this is personal with me. Okay, I started out talk radio about 30 years ago. I was on KABC in LA and then KFI. And on Saturday afternoons, I followed Rush Limbaugh on KFI, the best of Rush. So I'm thinking, by the way, my show was Bill Press, True American, which drove the Rush people crazy. So I started out and I figured I'm following Rush, right? So I used to listen to him like every day, and I'd be taking notes as to what I wanted to correct, right? What lie I wanted to correct. And then I realized I didn't have to listen every day. I could pick any 1 minute of any show and it would be total BS and I would just take off on it, right? So that was my sort of introduction to Rush. But what really, I don't mean to get on my soapbox, but look, those of us who have the microphone, and I think we have a responsibility to respect the power of the microphone. I don't care whether you're liberal or conservative, right? That our job is to inform, it's to entertain, hopefully to inspire, right? Rush used it for just the opposite. He used his microphone to divide, to insult, to just attack people relentlessly. In racist, misogynist, the worst possible ways. I know he had a huge audience, but I think he appealed to the worst in his listeners. a lot of people found it funny. I didn't think calling Sandra Fluke a slut was funny, right? I didn't think calling Chelsea Clinton the White House dog was funny. That song about Barack Obama when he was a candidate, Barack the Magic Negro, I don't think that was funny. So I think he represented the worst of talk radio. And as a talk radio host like you guys, I regret that.
Bill Press, when Rush Limbaugh did have his Sandra Fluke circumstance, and he doubled down day after day. I mean, he's nearly ignorant of women's reproductive health. They take pills after they have sex, and the taxpayers are paying them to be sluts. It was twisted logic, and he doubled down day after day on it. And then there was a boycott bill. And sure, Rush Limbaugh, at least, his stable of sponsors paid some small price. He did see a diminishment. But really, it was lefty talk radio that paid the price, because a lot of sponsors or prospective sponsors walked away from talk radio, period. And Bill, I don't think the left's ever quite recovered from the boycott of Rush Limbaugh.
It has not. Listen, I don't mean to kiss your butts here, right? But you guys, I think, are the best out there in what's left of progressive talk radio. But there are very few of you. I left the field a couple of years ago to do my podcast, right? But there are not that many left. And you're right, talk radio across the board suffered. But of course, Rush came back. But, he was the master of the big lie. Let's face it. I know, look, I was raised a Catholic. You're not supposed to say anything except good about the dead. If you can't say something good about the dead, don't say anything at all. I say BS to that. Look, if Bill Clinton had died while Rush was alive, do you think he would have said anything good about Bill Clinton or Barack Obama? Hell no. So I don't feel compelled to say anything good about him. Let me tell you the final Rush thing. So during those KFI days, I remember somebody called his show, right? And said, oh, God, you got to do something about this Bill Press. I mean, he's gone after you all the time, man. And so Rush Limbaugh's response was, I kid you not, I'll never forget it. Don't worry about Bill Press. He's just an entertainer. Now, to be called an entertainer by Rush Limbaugh, I mean, you talk about being called ugly by a frog, that was the ultimate to me. So,
folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. Our pal Bill Press joining us via the Zoom. On this day, obviously a huge day in talk radio, Rush Limbaugh passing away. Bill, obviously this was known for some time with his cancer diagnosis. How do you think right-wing talk radio is going to respond to this, gaping hole in their lineup, and where do you see this going in the next couple of years?
Well, sadly, as we just said, I think the field of talk radio has been for a long time and is now more than ever dominated by conservative talk. Among, Dom, I'd have to say there's some reasonable voices out there. Dennis Prager, I don't agree with, but he's a thoughtful person. Hugh Hewitt is a thoughtful person. But then you've got still Mark Levine, who's total nut job. All right. Sean Hannity, who is just total. I remember when Sean Hannity was a reasonable person. I mean, he just swallowed the Kool-Aid so much now. He's the arm of the Republican Party. But I think there are going to be others. Some of those, either Hannity or Levine or somebody new, will come up and try to take over Rush's position, his dominance of the field. I don't think they'll succeed. I mean, one thing you'd have to give him is he was a talented entertainer, right? Disgusting the way he used it, but boy, you don't build an audience of 20 million and keep them for 30 years unless you've got some talk radio juice, right? Which he certainly had. Yeah. And it was sad. I thought to the end, he totally kept broadcasting, kept trumpeting the fact that Joe Biden stole the election. I mean,
the big lie, Bill. I was going to say. I mean, my of the most recent things that the man was involved in, the constant innuendos and hints, because of the things I did hear, and I don't know, maybe he did come out right out and say it, but he certainly hinted at the big lie, right? And over and over and over again. And I just wonder.
It was well beyond hinting.
No, he said it. He said it flat out. He said that Donald Trump won, Biden stole the election. And today, when Trump comes out of his cave, right, to call Fox News and talk about Rush, what did he do? Trump today asserted that he won the election. So he's continuing the big lie still, and Rush right to the very end.
Right to the very end. And be it Rush Limbaugh, we don't have to worry about that anymore, but certainly some of the others and those that would aspire to fill that hole, to be even more Rushy or more Trumpy than anybody else. Is there any price to be paid for peddling that big lie, Bill? I mean, to stand up every day with the power of the mic, as you mentioned, and say these things over and over and over and over again, giving motivation and inspiration to the white nationalists to charge the mound.
I would have to say, sadly, apparently there is no price to pay. As long as there are sponsors. Hey, the Pillow Man, right? He'll still buy time.
You realize, Bill, I don't know if you've seen the newest Nielsen for 2020, but talk radio had its best year ever. An 11.2 share with all listeners 6 and older. So every time a radio's on in America, 11% of those people are listening to probably whitey-righty talk radio.
Yeah.
And that's the best ratings that the format has ever had. It's number one in radio, country music, and others have fallen way back compared to that. Hell, Bill, in Milwaukee, when they were peddling the big lie on the station that features Rush Limbaugh, Heartless Radio, they were pulling a 13 share, and the other more conservative, more mainline Republican station was pulling a 7 share. They were pulling a 20 share in Milwaukee, Bill.
And so if you are a program director, right, at one of these stations, what do? You put on, I remember the day when there were several stations in the same market that were carrying Rush Limbaugh. No. So today people see those numbers, and what do? They go as far extreme right as they can, because they get the wackos who will tune in every day to get their hate fix, and they're, they get the fuel for the tank from extreme right-wing talk radio. You cannot be too extreme on talk radio today for that crowd.
Bill, here in my state, the state of Wisconsin, there are 81 right-wing talk radio outlets. 12 of them play Rush daily, but in cumulative, if you factor in the Hannity and the local host, 235 hours per day of daily content being pumped out on pretty much every one of the biggest AM stations. Bill, stick around if you got a few more minutes for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We got Bill Prest. He is a talk radio host in his own regard, a fine liberal pundit, a CNN contributor, and admittedly a little ghoulishly gleeful about the passing of Rush Limbaugh. I won't hold it against you, Bill. Come back with us. More Dom, more crew, more Fancy Brian, more Bill Press, and you on the phones perhaps as well. 844-967-2789. I think Bill called us the best talkers in lefty talk. All three out there in contention. Come back, more Devil's Advocates.
Thank you, Rush, for doing my thinking for me, because I lack the ability to think critically and independently.
I'm sure of it. I hate him.
The Devil's Advocates.
There are lots of people that haven't made up their mind on this race, and you think, how could that be? No, there are. There are a lot of people that could still make a decision all the way on election day down.
Undecided voters are the biggest idiots on the planet. Try giving short, simple answers.
Like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV.
Yosemite.
Because freedom.
America has chosen Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to lead our country. Now it's time to get to work. Time to expand healthcare and tackle the coronavirus pandemic. Time to restore our democracy and unify our nation. It's time to put this administration to work for us. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to darnwi.com. My Congresswoman, Rep. Gwen Moore, over 100 Republicans signing on to that Texas lawsuit. What are your thoughts on your fellow Republicans in the House?
You know, honestly, this is what we all sign up for. This is a democracy. You run races. I've been involved in races where people lose, and I'm ashamed of the fact that we had one congressman, I guess he's brand new, who voted for this nonsense.
Listen to Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 2 to 5 p.m.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you miss any of this fine program, please go online to domandcroot.com. You can listen to and download podcasts and interviews.
Dominic, now our friends in the Eastern time zone celebrating their own 420 break. We got a fine guest. He stuck around. It is Bill Press, talk radio host, liberal pundit, author, CNN political contributor, and friend of ours. Bill, how powerful do you think Rush Limbaugh was? And here's what I mean. Rush Limbaugh, although he didn't know Trump well, apparently when Trump first announced, Rush Limbaugh was an early advocate for Trump's candidacy. He felt like that guy was political gold, or maybe talk radio gold, but he supported him and he helped lift Donald Trump. In what part do you think that a guy like Rush Limbaugh, be it Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene or any one of these QAnon sort of candidates, how much do you think Rush Limbaugh individually through his platform lifted those people to their elected office?
I wouldn't say 100%, but maybe 90. But put it this way. If Rush ever took them on, they'd be dead. They would have been dead, right? And we saw that where I remember Michael Steele, when he was RNC chair, he said something about, I think, by the way, I'm pretty sure he said something about, well, you know, yeah, Limbaugh's, he's funny, but he's just an entertainer. And unfortunately, his stuff is ugly and divisive. Yeah, the next day, Michael Steele was on Rush's show kissing his butt. He had to, because he got so much flack. There are several members of Congress who dared cross Rush or disagree with Rush, something that he said, and they got such heat from their right-wing supporters that they had to kiss his ass. So I think he had a great deal to do. If you remember, actually, early on, Rush was playing footsie with Marco Rubio, and he realized that as far as Rush went, Marco didn't have the cred, right? He didn't have the guts. He wasn't mean enough. He wasn't ugly enough. He didn't lie enough. Now, I mean, look at today. He's as big as a liar as Trump. But that's so Rush edged over to Trump because Trump was listen, I'll put it this way. Rush was Trump before Trump was Trump.
Right.
Seriously. The
Bill,
whole MO.
Do you think our Democratic friends, let's call them the coastal elites, do you think they understand how much power talk radio has to shape the narrative? Because as you and I and Dominic know, the conversation doesn't end at the end of the show. you create minions in talk radio, and those minions go forth. And if you sing to the choir, or pardon me, preach to the choir, they might just go out there and sing for you. Do you think that Democrats really understand that ceding the airwaves to the Rush Limbaughs of the world has had disastrous effects for our democracy?
They don't have a. Well, you're
even clean. We're still on the FCC here, Bill.
That's right. You're podcast, Bill.
You're opening up a can of worms, man. I wrote a whole book about this called Toxic Talk. No, hell no. Liberals don't get it. I have broken my pick trying to convince, I did for years, Democratic donors that they had to invest in talk radio. And that means, find good people, support good people, get sponsors for the shows, buy stations, right? Put the programming on. And instead, the crap that I always got from these people was, talk radio, that's a right-wing thing, right? We can't be bothered. Or we got to give money to the candidates. We support the candidates, because they like to get invited to the black tie dinners. They like to get invited to the cocktail parties. And I used to tell them, what the hell? How are your candidates going to get the message out without talk radio, right? Don't you realize? And conservatives got that early on, and they did. They went out and they built the think tanks. They recruited the talkers. They bought the stations. Look at the ownership. Ownership is what determines whether you get on the air or I get on the air, or whatever. And 95% of the stations are owned by like 5 big right-wing media companies. And
Bill, I don't know if the Democrats get it, because when it comes presidential time, I mean, Joe Biden was hugely resourced here in the state of Wisconsin, spent like $54 million in my state, one singular state.
Right.
And then he won by a narrow margin.
Yeah.
And there is no infrastructure left. All there is a donor list. That's all they built.
Let me ask you this question too. How much money did the Biden campaign spend on your station? Probably not much. That's another thing I had a problem with them. I'd go to the DNC, I'd go to these Democratic campaigns and said, come on, we got your people and we got this audience and we need your help. And they put the money, they spend the money somewhere else. I'm telling you.
You're listening to the Devil's Advocates, Bill Press, for about 90 more seconds, maybe 2 minutes. I want to get a call in here, Bill, if you don't mind. Our pal Pizza Box Mike apparently used to call your show. Mike, say hello to Bill.
Bill, how are you?
I remember Mike from Madison. Yes.
Yeah. I'm with you and Dom on this. I was, like the guy shouldn't have wasted his lungs on hatred. He might still be breathing today. No empathy, nothing to empathize with that guy. He knew what he was doing. And just really glad to see you and hear you, because I'm watching you guys on Facebook, which makes it even more fun. But I'm glad to see you out there. And hey, listen to my show on a Saturday sometime. I'm on this guy's networks now, too.
Oh, cool. Cool. I didn't know that. I will, Mike. I will indeed. And hey, someday soon, I'll be back in Madison. And, we have a tradition with Dom and Crute in Madison, and drive around and enjoy the scenery and the local products.
Mike,
let's put it
and Bill, Mike is down with that tradition as well.
Oh, is that right? Oh, cool. Hey, can I just say one quick word?
Bill? Yeah, make it quick, Bill.
He said empathy. I just want to say Joe Biden last night, a guy who cares about people, who likes people. God, what a great, just to see him made me proud. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
And he didn't brag about how many electoral votes he won over Donald Trump. Bill Press, our pal, talk radio host, liberal pundit, CNN political contributor.
All right, guys.
The Devils. Bill will catch up real soon. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
You're going to be dead.
He called me fat and said I was going to die on the toilet.
It can only be my personality. That's all.
I'm so glad you're listening to Devil Radio. It makes me so happy. Moo.
Hey, Rocker, I heard you have a rye whiskey.
I do, Jimmy. Rocker Rye Whiskey. The mash is a high rye with a touch of malted barley that makes it yummy.
And Rocker Rye Whiskey is dedicated to the Madison music scene?
It sure is, Jimmy. You can read the story on the back of the bottle at any of these fine locations. Star Liquor, Woodman's, Trixie's Liquor, Vic Pierce, Miller & Sons in Verona, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, and enjoy Rocker Rye Whiskey at the Lazy Oaf Lounge and Sal's Dark Horse. Find out more at rockervodka.com.
So, Darcy Haber, I hear you have solar panels on your office building. Since when are real estate agents tree huggers?
Crew, you should know that at Solidarity Realty, we provide outstanding real estate service while adhering to our core progressive values. Environmental sustainability is a big part of that.
So you really walk your talk, huh?
Yep, I even walk to work.
Come on, always?
Well, sometimes I bike. And if I have an appointment across town, I use my Prius.
Darcy Haber, an honest broker. Check out solidarityrealty.com or call her at 358-6183.
I'm Tim McGuire with an AP News Minute. Federal agents have seized some 11 million counterfeit N95 respirator masks. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
The seizures of these counterfeit surgical masks ensures the health and safety of our frontline healthcare workers who so bravely combat the pandemic by preventing them from receiving inferior personal protective equipment.
Investigators also notified about 6,000 potential victims in at least 12 states, including hospitals, medical facilities, and others, urging them to stop using them. Parts of the frigid Deep South, where wintry precipitation already left thousands without power, got still more snow and ice today. The winter weather forcing the postponement of some pandemic vaccinations and delaying vaccine shipments to states including Georgia and Alabama. I'm Tim McGuire.
Are you one of the millions of Americans who experience occasional bloating, gas, or abdominal discomfort? Join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up and see how healthy your gut can feel. Align contains a quality probiotic strain developed by gastroenterologists. It adds more good bacteria to your gut to naturally help soothe your occasional digestive upsets with continued daily usage. This is the time to join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Sign up at alignprobiotics.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, February 17th. At a CNN town hall held at the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee last night, President Joe Biden said that by the end of July, anyone who wants to be vaccinated will be, due to the administration being on track to secure more than 600 million vaccine doses by then. President Biden braved the snow and chose Wisconsin for his first official trip as president. Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development officials say unemployment insurance recipients will have to wait until at least April before they can access new benefits that Congress created in December. Department officials are once again saying the outdated computer systems at DWD are to blame for the delay, but unemployment activists say states with similar systems have still been able to roll out the new benefits despite the outdated technology. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, want to thank our most recent guest, a fine one, Bill Press, talk radio host, liberal pundit, author, CNN political contributor, an occasional pass partner of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. You don't have to tell everybody, Bill.
It's okay, man. Bill's hip. It's all good.
Can't wait to see friends like Bill Press and Pizza Box Mike in a post-COVID world. I was encouraged, much like Bill Press, by the town hall last night, and you apparently most encouraged by the death of Rush Limbaugh today. Phone lines open. I want to open it up to the broader audience on this topic.
Yes.
Can't just have your ghoulishness for the whole hour. 844-967-2789. Do you have an opinion about the passage of Rush Limbaugh? You know, ditto heads everywhere. Morning, Dom. Who will do their thinking for them?
Oh, there's plenty of other vitriolic right-wing jacknuts that'll show up and spew whatever they want into the mic. I mean, you know, one goes away and a bunch more will replace them. Again, he's motivated certainly all sorts of talking heads. You know, he's shown them the way, and I think, Bill, I concur. Limbaugh was Trump before there was Trump, and that's not something that I think people would really strive for. Now, I'm getting, you know, these emails like, you know, Leader McCarthy and you know, 45, the last guy that was in the White House.
I've got that statement. Maybe I'll read it, but please continue.
All very proud of Rush Limbaugh and acknowledging the impact, and certainly you can't deny the impact. But you know, if you're going to live that life, if you're going to be a bombastic bastard, then you got to expect some people to dance on your grave when you're gone. And I'm more than happy to fill that role, because I've also had the, oh man, I should just, you know, it sucks people die. And I'm sure some people around him loved him, and, you know, and all the normal emotions that a human being would have upon hearing about the death of somebody. But then you reflect and you look and you realize all the things that this man said, what he stood for, what he motivated, what he was involved in. It's terrible. I don't feel bad for him. I'm glad he's dead.
You know, at the end of my days, Dom, I'm hopeful that someone will be dancing on my grave, you know, inspired by my own bombastic ways. I just never thought it would be you. Let me read a statement from the former president, the office of 45. Here's what he said.
Oh, God.
The great Rush Limbaugh has passed away to a better place. Can you verify that?
Sure about that.
Free from physical pain and hostility. Well, he threw most of the hostility out. I read on. His honor, courage, strength, and loyalty will never be replaced. Rush was a patriot, a defender of liberty, and someone who believed in all the greatness our country stands for. Rush was a friend to myself and millions of Americans, a guiding light with the ability to see the truth and paint vivid pictures over the airwaves. That's what he was doing, Don, painting vivid pictures on the theater of the mind. Let me read to conclusion here. Melania and I'm sure you've spoken with her often. Melania and I express our deepest condolences to his wonderful wife, Catherine, his family, and all of his dedicated fans. He will be missed greatly. And just one small note, Dom, people I saw on social media, you know, say something positive about Rush Limbaugh. And I thought to myself, I was always quite impressed with his ability to do a 3-hour monologue on Oxycontin, like a lot of them. I mean, that's talented. But someone else I saw posted, and I did take encouragement by this thought. He never did breed. It ends with him. Rush, the first and only.
Oh, no kids? Nothing
No kids.
To pass the golden mic on to?
Did not dirty the gene pool.
He's not a breeder, Dom.
844-967-2789.
I don't even know what
2789. I want the audience on this. I mean, Crudy thinks this is I'm not clear what Crudy thinks. I guess I'm taking the to hell with them attitude.
I'm just hoping God doesn't strike me down, Dom. You know, I'm trying to hedge my bets here. I'm not taking glee at another man's passing, even if I'm encouraged by the fact that this will decimate. In the short run, this decimates conservatives. I mean, Rush Limbaugh did set conservative thought in no small part. Every other media source in this nation at some point would tune into Rush Limbaugh to find out what Rush had to say on a particular topic. And those days are over. I mean, Rush Limbaugh effectively set the plate for conservative talkers for the entire rest of the lineup. They all took their cues from Rush. Oh, Rush says this is the headline of the day. I guess that's what I will talk about also.
So like when people call us up and said, hey, I heard on Tom Hartman today.
Yeah, apparently Tom, the trendsetter for us.
Oh, we appreciate that. We like Tom. That's okay. A lot of people can have similar thoughts, but you're absolutely right. A guy like Rush did certainly, set the table for a lot of those righty talkers to come out and basically reiterate and restate in their own way to try to emulate and copy what was obviously a successful format. If dehumanizing liberals and denigrating women and engaging in racist humor it's what's going to sell. I mean, that's not something I necessarily want to be a part of.
Anti-democracy for fun and profit. And
Right?
he was damn good at it.
Cash in the checks.
Very, very profitable. Fancy?
Oh, I just was trolling Twitter and I saw that people wanted to point out that Rush died during Black History Month.
844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, you are up. Welcome. What are your thoughts today?
Hey, Dick.
Oh, there's just so many things with Rush. When his first book came out, a friend of mine, younger brother, at Christmas time told him, he says, you really ought to read this book. And he says, either that or at least, give it a chance. And he says, well, I got a chair at home with a short leg. I can take it for that. But other than that, that'd be where it ends. But no, I agree with Al Franken on Al Franken's book. Rush is a big fat idiot. And
I thought he was a big fat liar, according to Al Franken.
Well, and he lengthened my workday back in the 90s by about an hour, as I told you about when I took care of the governor's mansion. We happened to be there the day he called Tommy. So we had to shut down operations for about 45 minutes so that Tommy could talk to the bloviator in chief. It was a great day in history.
Rush Limbaugh, kind of a big deal. Tommy's got to take that call, Dick. What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah, it's a great thing.
All right, Dick, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate it. What are your thoughts? How are you handling? What are you thinking about the passing of whitey talker Rush Limbaugh?
Do you remember when he got a shot at commentating on football?
I do.
ESPN, I think. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought it was a short run.
It was a very short run.
A little experiment they did.
Was it Culpepper? He was saying something. To the effect
Donovan
that the NFL
McNabb
that they just wanted
overrated because he was effectively
black,
black, and people were just rooting for the black guy. He wasn't that talented, all things considered. I believe it was Tom Jackson that I thought was going to cross the desk and just throttle Rush's fat ass.
844-967-2789. Rose Ann from Madison, you are next. Thank you for calling. What are your thoughts today?
Well, I'm glad to see him gone. I am a feminazi, and when I heard
embracing
him say
it,
that, I knew it. What?
Embracing the terms.
Yeah, when I heard him say it, I thought, man, I'm a feminazi, and I looked at him and I thought, if a man cannot support a feminist, well, then I'm a feminazi.
Yep.
And I'm glad, I don't let the door hit him as he leaves.
On to a better place, right?
That's right.
What about
Grand Slam right out there?
What about the wake that he left, Roseanne? How do you think that's going to turn out?
Well, there's all of these Trumpsters and him, and I don't know where they're going to go or what they're going to do. There's got to be something to fill up the vacuum that these guys are leaving. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years to see how this all works out, and if there's going to be somebody from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party that's going to come forward and lead these wayward people in a different direction.
No. He or she, but probably a white guy, think Mike Pence. I mean, hell, Donald Trump might see an opportunity knocking right about now to host his own national radio show, right? But I would say probably going to be a man, and that person, that replacement, whoever it is for Rush Limbaugh, will not have the same political impact that Rush did, because talk radio is about a body of work. People tune in hopefully each and every day, and you've got to build those relationships and friendships. I mean, Rush Limbaugh, good or bad, 31 years is a pretty good run on the radio continuously.
Well, don't you think Trump could just step right in there?
Yeah, but he couldn't hold a conversation for 3 hours with anyone other than himself.
Well, that's true. But I hope to God it's not a woman. There's Phyllis Schlafly is the only one that I can really think of that filled that category.
Laura Ingram's out there. There's Jeannie Pirro. There's some talented, air quotes, female potential talkers and replacements for Rush Limbaugh. Ann Coulter? What's she doing?
Thank you for the call, Roseanne from Madison. We'll keep going on the phones. 844.
How could you possibly misjudge this?
844-967-2789. Joe from Madison, you're next. Welcome, Joe. What do you got today?
Hey, Joe.
Well, yeah. Hi, guys. I just love to remind everyone about Mr. Limbaugh's incredibly wonderful words to Michael J. Fox, when he was imitating his Parkinson's and making fun of this disability. I thought that really marked the man as just somebody that really deserves to be remembered in a positive way. Not. I would also bring up the phrase, remember the wonderful one where he told the caller to take the bone out of your nose? That was also like a high point in American cultural life. And then I would, this one I hadn't heard before, but apparently he said, who deserves a posthumous Medal of Honor is James Earl Ray, the killer of Martin Luther King. So, I'm kind of with you, Dom, that people earn what they, in their life, what their final words may be. And the final words would be what your previous caller just said, don't let the door hit you, No. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Joe.
Bye, Felicia.
Yes. Thank you for the call, and I totally agree. And that's the thing. And I forgot about some of those until you just said those, Joe. But just
she's
a
a
cursory
slut.
Look
a slut, I tell you.
You talk about the body of work. I mean, that's what he did. That's what he peddled, and that's what he sold. And if you and I were going to die, Crudy, that man would dance on our graves for being the libtards that we are, or whatever terminology, whatever joke he made to minimize other people that did not think like he did.
Okay, my grave maybe, but doubtful your grave. It'd be a small dance floor.
844-967-2789. Are we moving on from the Rush Limbaugh conversation? Okay, go ahead,
I just
Brian.
want to add in one more thing from a texter here. Russ says, I don't know if it's a better place. At least it's warmer there. You don't get to be viewed as a good person just by dying.
Right. I mean, what all these?
That was my last best hope.
Crudy, you're screwed, man. I'm sorry. I promise I'll say something nice. I promise.
What makes you think I'm going to
be nice?
I'll be at your funeral. You don't come to my funeral. I go to your funeral. Hopefully we won't be at the same place at the same time and meet our maker together.
I always thought this was going to end in a murder-suicide anyway. But
come on, man. Folks, you are listening to the...
Or murder. Who knows?
Never know.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the darkest talk radio show on the air now that Rush Limbaugh is dead. Apparently, we're celebrating that today here on the airwaves. Still got time for you, though. 844-967-2789. Join us. It ain't a political party without your contribution. Once again, 844-96-PARTY.
There's a special place in hell for Republicans who should know better.
If he dies.
All right, well, what does your church tell you about when people say that they're the second coming of God? My reason tells me the man is certifiable. I want your opinion, Gary.
I would say anybody who comes back and says that, I would say you'd be the Antichrist.
I am the chosen one.
So Trump is the Antichrist then, Gary, by that logic?
I'm not saying he is, but
But he said he's the chosen one.
I am the chosen one.
Gary, by your biblical logic, Donald Trump is the Antichrist.
listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
We did it. All across this nation, voters like you turned out in record numbers to elect Joe Biden. Now, it's time to come together to address the issue that matter most, tackling climate change, expanding access to healthcare, ensuring racial justice, and putting Americans back to work. Text ACT to 668366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Pulled.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open for your take, talk, or text at 844-967-2789.
Now, Dominic, I did get a little email during the course of the break, and you can always communicate with us in a variety of fashions. I prefer phone callers at 844-967-2789. You can text us like conservative George losing his mind. Just trolling nonstop. And Fancy Brian, describe this. His response to your hate for Rush Limbaugh is to chastise you with more hate.
That's pretty much it. He's hating on us for hating on Rush Limbaugh. And literally every day, all he does is text insults about how horrible we are and how stupid we are, but wonders why we're so mean to him.
George, you're one of our P1 listeners.
Keep it up, George. We do appreciate it. Give that man a book.
We do thank you for your continued and obsessive listenership.
And I would note that I never said that I hated Rush Limbaugh. I mean, that would take so much energy. I mean, hate is a powerful emotion. It is draining. I just don't have it in me. But I'm glad he's dead.
Yeah, so more of a cheerful thought than a
I'm
bummer
glad.
Sort of emotion.
I'm glad. I'm not hateful. I'm glad.
I'm basically apathetic to the entire guy at all. And then, he's dead. Oh, okay, cool. All right. That's it. That's literally all the emotion and energy I'm putting into it.
I've been waiting for this moment for about a decade. Not specifically the death of Rush Limbaugh, but of course, talk radio is my industry. It's a big part of my life. And I've wondered what is going to happen with the passage of Rush Limbaugh. I didn't know if he would die or eventually just, retire from the sport. But apparently he, took the easy way out. One quick note, the email, as I mentioned, Mary emailed me, and you can always do that. Pence shows why we can't really feel sorry for him. And Mary sent me a headline from thehill.com. Pence pays tribute to Limbaugh, the quote, "Today, America lost a giant." And apparently Mike Pence fashions himself something of a media sort. Hey, George, Pence is doing a podcast. Nobody listens to those things, according to George. And Pence once described himself, his claim to fame is, prior being a talk radio host.
He was a radio guy.
And
yes.
Pence apparently described himself as like Rush Limbaugh without all the pizzazz.
So all the racism and misogyny.
Oh no, he had all of that and more.
Yeah, but without the
and don't forget
value?
his homophobia, the healthy dose of that.
Don't tell mother.
He just was far from entertaining, I suspect.
844-967-2789.
Even George cannot say we do not entertain him. He listens 3 hours every day. Don't you, George? Don't you?
Are you not entertained, George? Jake from Milwaukee, you are next. Welcome, Jake. What do you got for us?
George. Your name starts with a G. We had a person named Gary. Why don't you call and have some guts? Like Trump. Trump is so brave. He will call here anytime. Everyone knows it. Everyone agrees. No, I'm just kidding. Back in the 90s, I actually started listening to conservative radio, got to Rush Limbaugh. And for a little while, I was like, am I conservative? And then, they started doing Don't Ask, Don't Tell and everything on homosexuals. I'm like, heck no. I'm an anarchist leftist like I used to be. So,
but Jake, when you listen to Rush Limbaugh, and it's funny, Fancy Brian and I were going through clips of when Rush Limbaugh appeared on Family Guy, and Brian, the dog character, read a Rush Limbaugh book, and apparently started believing, turned into a Republican, if you will.
Rush Limbaugh was right all along. Conservative republicanism is the answer.
And that's the problem, is if you are a reasonable human being, Jake, and you listen, even a broken clock's right twice a day. Rush Limbaugh did make compelling arguments at times, but the lack of any sort of truthful alternative leaves his vast audience completely misinformed. And that's the problem with Rush Limbaugh. He was just fine misinforming them.
Well, see, that's the other thing, too. He was a good salesman. He was like the radio P.T. Barnum of the age. He was good at it. He was really good. He thought, he made you question what you were thinking when he was still okay. So I just, I'm not going to be dancing on graves, but I have a feeling Satan has a really good job for him. Because, if he could sell your mother for $1, he probably would.
All right.
Maybe $2, Jake. Don't want to sell her out cheap.
Thanks for the call, man. 844-967-2789. And I think you're right, Crudy. And when he came out, there was certainly this, who listened to AM radio, right? No one did. It was all FM dial stuff. And he did change that. And it was unique.
That and the change in the fairness doctrine opened up the floodgates for a guy like Rush Limbaugh. He replaced Morton Downey Jr., I believe, at the first deal he ever had. And he did things his way out there, I believe, in Sacramento, California. But it was in August of 1988. I was just a couple months out of high school when Rush Limbaugh got national syndication. And it took him years to build that audience. He didn't just go on the airwaves and everyone fell in love with his conservative bloviating. It took a long time and a lot of investment to build up Rush Limbaugh. And to my perspective, Rush Limbaugh has had this sort of creeping effect on the electorate because there are plenty of independents. There are plenty of people, I would have counted myself amongst them, that found themselves listening to some portion of Rush Limbaugh's show for years. And in some small way, you are persuaded. If you listen to a different viewpoint,
unless you're yelling at the radio, man.
No, there are times you cannot tell me, Dom, I've seen you be persuaded on the radio through the course of time and years and repetition of my messaging at you.
Oh, yes. It's all
we have seen this once upon a time at Heartless Radio. We had a young producer. We trained the guy. Guy was agnostic about politics. Joel, he's still
a sports guy.
Yeah, he was a sports guy. And 6 months after working for the greatest radio show ever as our producer, we got him really cool and talented and almost entirely liberal. And then they stole him for the righty-whitey talk radio host up the dial and up the hallway, as fate would have it. Once he was good and trained, they stole him for Icky Vicky McKenna's show. And within 6 months, the kid was wearing a MAGA hat. He probably voted for Trump. I'm telling you, if that is all you are exposed to,
well, that's the point. That's all you were exposed to. If you didn't like, if you had wanted to hear an opposing view, where did you go find it? There wasn't anything
until the Devil's Advocates radio show came around. Thank God we exist. You're all welcome. Thanks for listening. AM 950 listeners, stick around. Matt McNeil is next. The rest of you, more Devil's Advocates. It was election day in Wisconsin last night. We'll tell you all about it.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I don't know, but I'm suspicious.
I'm glad you did.
Biden won because of you. Because you stayed in line to vote even when you got tired. Because you knew that your vote is power. Because you understood what was at stake. And because you showed up, we now have the power. Text ACT to 668-366 to join the Move On movement to build an America for all. MoveOn.org. Political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Rocker, we gave the people live music. Isn't that what they wanted?
Of course not, Jimmy. Give the people live music, and they'll set up a brat stand with a beer caddy.
Will Rocker get his beer and brat? Catch Max Inc. Radio this Saturday evening to find out. We'll have the best of local music from Wisconsin and live music performed in the Devil's Lair. Go to maxincradio.com for the live music schedule. Max Inc. Radio starts at 6 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Did you bring a lawn chair, Jimmy?
You are listening to WTTN Columbus, W224EG Madison, always streaming at devilradio927.com.
AP News, I'm Tim McGuire. President Biden meets with labor leaders on his $1.9 trillion coronavirus recovery plan and ways to rebuild the nation's infrastructure. President telling reporters in the White House that the polls have found a strong majority of people want what's in the plan.
Don't they want to help people with nutrition? Don't they want to help people be able to pay their mortgages? Don't they want to help people get their unemployment insurance? Don't they want to make sure that people are able to stay in their homes without being thrown out of their homes in the middle of this god-awful pandemic? What don't they like?
The White House COVID-19 response team members are briefing the media. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky says cases continue to fall.
COVID-19 cases have now been declining for 5 weeks. The 7-day average in the past week, cases have decreased nearly 22% to an average of slightly more than 86,000 cases per day.
Walensky adding that deaths remain high, more than 3,000 per day. The U.S. is vaccinating on average 1.7 million people a week, up from 1 million a month ago. The Pentagon is trying to find ways to increase the number of military members agreeing to the shots.
By the thousands, troops are refusing to take the vaccine or putting it off. A recent Kaiser Family Foundation survey found military resistance is around 50%, which the Joint Staff's top doctor says mirrors that of the general population. The military services say they're working to knock down wild internet rumors about the vaccine's side effects, but they do think they found one potential way to sell the vaccine, the chance to deploy. Sailors on ships heading to sea last week were choosing to get vaccinated at rates higher than 80 to 90%. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Mixed results on Wall Street. The Dow closed up 90 points while the Nasdaq dropped 66, the S&P off 1. This is AP News.
Are you one of the millions of Americans who experience occasional bloating, gas, or abdominal discomfort? Join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up and see how healthy your gut can feel. Align contains a quality probiotic strain developed by gastroenterologists. It adds more good bacteria to your gut to naturally help soothe your occasional digestive upsets with continued daily usage. This is the time to join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Sign up at alignprobiotics.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
The Lazy Oaf Lounge is Madison's East Side place for friends and family. Stop in for a cold drink, stay a while for lunch or dinner. Awesome pizzas, juicy burgers, tasty apps, and a fish fry that is out of this world. Staying home for dinner tonight? No problem. Place an order for pickup or delivery at lazyoaflounge.com. The Lazy Oaf Lounge, 1617 North Stoughton Road, Madison. Order online at lazyoaflounge.com.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now is the time for you to reach the greatest audience ever. Call now and advertise with the Devil's Advocates and Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. Get your message out and let the greatest radio audience know how to support your business. Call Luke at 608-819-TALK. That's 608-819-8255. Or go to DARNWI.com.
Stream the Devils and Progressive News and Talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hi, this is Dom from the Devil's Advocates inviting you to join us on Patreon.com. Patreon allows for our audience to access exclusive programming not available anywhere else and gives you the ability to directly support the greatest radio show ever. History's patrons have supported the works of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Monet, and now with your support, the Devil's Advocates. So please go to Patreon.com and search the Devil's Advocates to pick your subscription. That's Patreon.com and the Devil's Advocates, the greatest radio show ever.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, February 17th. Announced Tuesday in a pre-recorded online speech rather than in the traditional Capitol address to the legislature, Governor Tony Evers unveiled his $91 billion budget. The proposal includes $1.6 billion in new tax revenue, along with about $600 million in tax cuts, a major boost in University of Wisconsin funding, and extension of the tuition freeze, along with 2% annual raises for state employees. It also repeals many of the public employee collective bargaining restrictions instituted in Act 10. The Milwaukee Health Department recently gave the green light to reopen the Pfizer Forum at 10% capacity, with a comprehensive set of safety protocols which requires fans to wear face masks and remain in their seats at all times. You're listening to Devil Radio.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we are sliding into the Wednesday post-election 4 o'clock happy hour. You know, it was election day in the great state of Wisconsin yesterday. Most of you apparently didn't notice.
7.2% electoral turnout. Woohoo!
Stunning. The engagement levels of a February primary election, when the only race that was really important on the ballot, statewide race at least, the Wisconsin superintendent of the Department of Public Instruction, the head of the education department, effectively, Tony Evers' former job. And we've narrowed the field, Dom, and we've got some breaking news. Deborah Carr, the conservative's choice, as I mentioned yesterday on the show, I knew she was the conservative choice because she was endorsed not just by David Blaska, but also by Scotty Wanker.
Of course.
So I knew not to vote for her. Jill Underly, who, and we didn't really wade into this race, not the primary side. Jill Underly clearly had the support of many of the progressives, at least that I'm friends with on Facebook. I had seen lots of positive posts, support for her, people early voting, absentee voting, and claiming they had voted for Dr. Jill Underly. And she actually won the primary last night. Now, this was a nonpartisan race. Supposedly, we had like 7 Democrats in the race, because even Deborah Carr claims she's a pragmatic Democrat who just happens to support voucher schools and probably the expansion thereof if Scott Walker supports her. So anyways, Jill Underly got 27% of the vote, about 88,700 votes. Deborah Carr got 86,045 votes, about 26%. Sheila Briggs in third at 16%, and Hendricks Williams at 11%. Others fell farther back with about 27,000 votes apiece, about 8% each for the other 3 not named candidates. Here's what I would say, Dom. I found this outcome a little surprising. Conservative talk radio, there's 81 stations out there. They do a better job of informing their audience when there is a singular conservative choice like Deborah Carr. And when you see a guy like Scott Walker thrown out on Facebook, vote for Carr like I did, you know that's the Republicans' choice.
Mm-hmm.
And they got the messaging machine. They got the word out all across the state of Wisconsin. Here's our candidate. It's Deborah Carr. And she still didn't win amongst a splintered field of like 6 other Democratic potential candidates. The fact that Underly beat her in a head-to-head matchup, I think portends probably a very favorable outcome for Underly. And then, Dom, and we did make an effort to book Dr. Underly, and early this morning, it seemed like she was probably coming on. But then there's been some cataclysmic, a seismic shift in the race during the course of the first day after the primary. Let's start there. State superintendent candidates Deborah Carr and Jill Underly will advance to the spring election, which will determine who will be Wisconsin's next top education official. Underly, who had the backing of the state's largest teachers union, led the pool of 7 candidates with 27% of the vote. Carr, who was backed by Republicans but calls herself a Democrat, came in a close second at 26%. Underly garnered a large number of endorsements from across the state, including the recommendation of WEAC, while Carr led the group in fundraising and spending according to campaign donations. I feel great, Carr said in an interview late Tuesday. We've taken one step forward to creating a world-class education system in Wisconsin. Now, Dom, I suspect I'm reading an article from just the elective results, but there was breaking news on this very race. Maybe you could update the audience.
I'd be delighted to, Michael.
Last night, Carr
Byer,
very happy about the big second place finish.
Reporting at the Wisconsin State Journal, State Superintendent candidate Deborah Carr deleted her social media account Wednesday and apologized for a racially insensitive tweet in which she responded to a question posed generally about the first time being called the N-word. In a response to a tweet from a New York University doctoral student and co-host of a podcast titled Race Through Education, who posed the question to the public, Carr wrote, quote, "I was 16 in high school and white. My lips were bigger than most, and that was the reference given to me." Carr posted her response at 5:40 p.m. Tuesday, the same day she placed second in the 7-person primary for state superintendent, advancing to the April 6th election against Pecatonia area school district. Pecatonica, thank you. School district superintendent Jill Underly. On Wednesday morning, Nada Elmakashafi, chief of staff to Rep. Francesca Hong, called Carr out, tweeting, quote, "As someone who has been bullied relentlessly and called a monkey and the N-word for having big lips, this is just not the level of Karen I wanted to see the day after your primary win."
Level of Karen, did I hear?
The name Karen.
And if you're unaware, they do a fine show, both Francesca Hong and Nada Elmafakashi. Sharp Elbows appearing Saturday mornings, 10 o'clock, right here on Devil Radio 92.7. If you haven't heard them yet, you should especially tune in this Saturday, I suspect.
I would encourage that. Nada apparently has Sharp Elbows every day of the week. A journalist at the Wisconsin State Journal goes on to write, the name Karen has become synonymous in recent years with white middle-class women who make aggressive, racially insensitive comments. Savion Castro, Madison School District board member, tweeted a response to Kerr Wednesday morning that said, quote, "This makes me profoundly sad and angry, though. Perfect example of white educators' profound failures to understand the isolation, alienation, and disenfranchisement of our Black and brown students' experience in our education system, public and private, microaggressions from staff and peers." Angela Lang, we know Angela, executive director of the Milwaukee Black Leaders Organizing for Communities, BLOC, also tweeted her disapproval and frustration with Kerr in response to that, said this, quote, "This is why I hate Wisconsin election. There's always one person at least that says something ignorant and racist. It's exhausting doing electoral work when this S happens." Kerr has since deleted her Twitter account and released a statement Wednesday morning apologizing for the tweet, which she acknowledged was insensitive. Here's her quote. "Yesterday, I posted a tweet in response to a post that dealt with the issue of racism. While not intending the post to be interpreted as racist, the post itself was insensitive, so I shut down my account and removed the comment. I do not shy away from conversations about race," she added. "In fact, I am very vocal about racism as it exists in its many forms, and I intentionally point to it when I see it. I apologize for having posted something that was intended to be part of the discussion of racism. I will continue to serve as a champion against racism in our schools and our communities." Alana Conley, spokesperson for Jill Underley's campaign, Kerr's competitor in the race for state superintendent who won the spring primary, lambasted Kerr for her tweet in a statement Wednesday, quote, "State superintendent is a serious job that requires sound judgment and a focus on what's best for students. We think the people of Wisconsin have had enough of political leaders tweeting nonsense," Conley said.
Now, Dominic, the original doctoral candidate who put the original post, when's the first time you were called the N-word? Now, this doctoral candidate is Black and said at 18, and that was the tweet that Kerr responded to. "I was 16 in high school and white. My lips were bigger than most," and that was the reference given to me. Now, Peyton, a doctoral candidate in educational policy at New York University, said his question was intended for Black and brown people who have experienced trauma from whiteness and white supremacy. Here's his quote. "I'm disappointed that a white person, let alone a candidate for a very important position in education, would think that it is appropriate to use her experience and the space made for us. In a race where all candidates have talked about racial equity as a major point in their platforms, voters have paid close attention to candidates' abilities to engage in conversations about racism and take responsibility for their actions. The other candidates advancing in April 6th general election, Jill Utterly, faced questioning in a previous forum about her handling of a racist incident in Pecatonica, where she serves as superintendent. After Kerr sent her tweets Tuesday night, several Twitter users pointed out that the question was not intended for white people, and her response minimized the experience of Black people who are called the slur. So anyways, more reporting there from the Journal Sentinel as well. But how do you screw this up? I mean, the day that you finish second, but carry through in the primary, you're out tweeting like 2 hours and 15 minutes before the polls close. I mean, shouldn't you have been trying to get out your voters? Really, right? You didn't have any campaigning on your mind. The most important thing was to respond to a Black Twitter request.
I think she did in her mind, and that goes to the judgment, right? That people are being so critical of. In her mind, she probably was. And what's even more concerning, it wasn't just that she took down the post, totally understandable, apologized, okay, but you deleted the account. Of course, it makes me wonder then, well, what other trash have you opined about in that account that has now been deleted?
I want to know how long they deliberated whether they should blame this on Keith Best or not.
I'm sorry, a staffer has unfortunately utilized my Twitter account, put out a untoward tweet, and I accept no responsibility whatsoever. It was Keith Beth's fault.
What me?
Fourth time's a charm?
Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Can't even make it through a 7% turnout spring primary for state superintendent of public instruction without some undue drama over a racist claiming to be a Democrat supported by the Republican candidate, a lily white blonde lady with Aryan blue eyes claiming that, you know, she was traumatized at 16 because her lips were apparently puffy, and someone must have described her with the N-word, and one must only assume those N-words dripped off people's lips, apparently where Deborah Kerr attended high school and was ostracized for her whiteness. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates.
I am not a racist. I'm an idiot.
That is correct.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
Three great stations have teamed up to bring you one tremendous impact. Chicago's Progressive Voice, WCPT 820 AM, Minnesota's Progressive Voice, AM 950, and Devil Radio 92.7 Madison. Representing the best independent progressive talk stations in cities in America. We partnered to offer one affordable advertising package that can cover the Great Lakes region. Now your company or cause can reach our highly engaged, combined monthly audiences of over 250,000 listeners, plus our combined worldwide streams and digital footprints at one low price. Local service, creative, and ad production available for an impact second to none. Call Devil Radio today at 608-819-8255.
Hey, Rocker, I heard you have a rye whiskey.
I do, Jimmy. Rocker Rye Whiskey. The mash is a high rye with a touch of malted barley that makes it yummy.
And Rocker Rye Whiskey is dedicated to the Madison music scene?
It sure is, Jimmy. You can read the story on the back of the bottle at any of these fine locations. Star Liquor, Woodman's, Trixie's Liquor, Vic Pierce, Miller & Sons in Verona, Steve's Liquor, Total Wine, and enjoy Rocker Rye Whiskey at the Lazy Oaf Lounge and Sal's Dark Horse. Find out more at rockervodka.com.
Hey folks, Patrick here from Pegasus Games, here to remind you that we're open for all your at-home gaming needs, both online at pegasusgames.com or in-store from noon to 6, with extended hours on Saturday and Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to noon for high-risk customers. From our new line of puzzles to pass the time, to the perfect board game to reconnect with family and friends. Walk-ins welcome or curbside pickup available over the phone or online at pegasusgames.com. Pegasus Games, home to games you never outgrow.
Talk radio made for the 99%. Only on 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Might seem crazy what I'm about to say.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. You can join us anytime, toll free, talk or text 844-967-2789.
Dominic, I'd like to point out this is the third successive hour we've celebrated the 420 as it's gravitated from time zone to time zone. You know, everybody party. Dominic, I want to enter this story from the Raw Story, one of my favorite sources, into the record. White guilt discussion triggers Fox News host. I'm teaching my daughter not to see color. Let me read. Fox News host argued on Wednesday that white children should be taught not to see color, leaving them blind to racial disparities. Fox and Friends host Peter Hegseth, call him Pete, kicked off a segment about racial awareness by complaining that one school had circulated a chart, I tell you, Dom, that outlined these stages of white identities, from white supremacist to white abolitionist. There have been some backlash, and some people are not liking it, co-host Steve Ducey reported. Always insightful, Ducey.
Ducey.
Word on the street is some people don't like it, mostly racist. I read on. What about the abuse directed at white kids? Hegseth wondered.
Oh, the poor white kids.
They're told to be guilty for the color of their skin. Haven't we been trying to move past that idea? Co-host Ainsley Earhart agreed. She's also very Aryan Ainsley. She's Sean Hannity's girlfriend. So, her judgment's got to come into question. But I read on. Yes, it's a tough topic, she remarked. And Black Lives Matter. I'm not speaking for you guys, but I hear their complaints and it makes me sad. And I have paid more attention to that, teaching my daughter not to see color, to see that everyone is God's child. Oh, she's 5 years old. We haven't had those major conversations yet.
Yeah, you're telling her all about God, though. That's a major conversation. You can't talk about racial disparities. I mean, if you can comprehend, an everlasting burning hell and sin as concepts as a 5-year-old, you're probably capable to understand race concepts.
Earhart said that Americans may need to talk about racism, and here's her quote, as a country, but to put it on our schools and to force those conversations.
Yes.
A lot of parents are saying in New York that it's too much, that they want to be able to talk to their kids about those things and not have the school manipulate or force them to think a certain way, like racism's bad. That last part was my editorialization. I read on. Instead of racism, Fox News host said schools should focus on mathematics, focus on history, focus on why we're paying these tax dollars to send our kids to school. Don't have those conversations at school, Ainsley Earhart added. Leave that up to the parents. Hegseth argued that certain people are being condemned for the color of their skin. And, sadly, he's still talking about white people. I read on. Again, a quote. What I want to teach my kids is you don't see someone by the color of their skin, he opined. That's the whole idea that we are one blood. Something like this takes us backwards and says, no, your identity is the color of your skin, white or black. After quoting Martin Luther King Jr. to make his
of course his
point, Hegseth added, it's serious because kids are learning it. Earhart remarked, it's real. White guilt, it's real. Are you feeling guilty? Although you are sort of olive skinned, you do tan well.
Listen, the appropriate place to discuss, hard topics like race. I mean,
Foxy friends?
If not in school, okay, then where? And what is the proper manner? At home with these morons explaining that it's the white kids that are having a hard time? I mean, that's why we are in the situation that we are in.
Come on, Ducey's even got the kid working at Fox News now. The nepotism runs deep there.
To teach that you don't see color is such a crock. Of course you see color. And of course that color has been used over the course of time to keep people of color suppressed.
Yeah, white
enslaved.
People mostly, according to Peter Hegseth.
What's that?
Mostly white people, according to Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, mostly white people doing that. So how can you discuss slavery? I mean, slavery is a hell of a topic, right? And that's a historical topic, as is, racism and white supremacy. Those are all interrelated kinds of topics. It's all our history. And it's not just our history. I mean, we're seeing it now. We saw it occur. White supremacists storming the Capitol. This is current history.
Dominic, if you know history, you clearly don't work at Fox News.
I mean, it's
being woke is not the Foxy Friends strong suit.
Listen, I mean, we all have more to learn. I mean, we can't learn it all in 1,000 lifetimes. And so I'm accepting of the fact, and I appreciate those who would reach out and put themselves in perhaps difficult and uncomfortable circumstances to try to address, some of these very real and hard issues. But with like Dr. Kerr and her Twitter account, or these fools on Fox News, it's not white guilt. It's addressing the racism in the country, the systemic racism in our foundational pillars of democracy. These are historical conversations to be had. They should be taught by those who have a grasp of the history and of the concept, not Pete and Douchey.
I think you got it right the first time, but it's Ducey. Now, do you think that Sean Hannity's ever looked over at Ainsley and said, "You got a bootylicious backside"?
I didn't know that they were an item, and I could have gone my entire life without knowing that fact.
Okay, if Hannity hasn't said it to her, probably Ducey. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates going to turn it closer to home. A Gadsden flag flying in the great state of Wisconsin. Should it be taken down? Dom says no. I say yes. I'm right again.
If you're living a life that's a lie,
right?
If you're not honest, it's a character issue.
Like I'm some sort of white trash perv.
We'll deal with this tomorrow.
From Baraboo to Horicon, WTTN 1580 AM is News Talk Radio built for the 99%. Rural Wisconsin's home for Devil Radio.
Hi, I'm Todd Stryker, President and CEO of Five Nines. Have you got your head in the clouds on how to manage IT for your enterprise? We can make your dreams a reality. With our enterprise cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting, we'll manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Consider Five Nines your personal enterprise IT solution. Enjoy technology. For more information, visit fivenines.com. That's the number 5, NINES.com.
Stream the Devils and progressive news and talk 24/7 at the Devil's Advocates Radio Network, Wisconsin. That's DARNWI.com. That's DARNWI.com.
Hey, it's Pizza Box Mike. I've got a show outside the Pizza Box. Be sure to listen on Saturdays at noon on Devil Radio. There is a reason why they won't let me on Facebook anymore.
It drags on in freezing states. I'm Jackie Quinn with an AP News Minute. Much of the nation remains gripped in frigid conditions with power outages persisting. And it's not letting up in Houston, says Mayor Sylvester Turner.
People are returning to their homes and their pipes have burst.
Many now don't have water, and those who do need to boil it. Another storm system is pushing from the Plain States into the Northeast. The new Homeland Security Secretary, Ali Mayorkas, says agents have seized some 10 million counterfeit N95 face masks, hoping that the effort helps protect healthcare workers.
By preventing them from receiving inferior personal protective equipment.
A 70-year-old man's been arrested in a hit-and-run accident that killed the father of singer Nicki Minaj on Long Island in New York. Conservative talk show host Rush Limbaugh's died after battling lung cancer. He was 70 years old. Stocks were mixed. The Dow gained 92. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Are you one of the millions of Americans who experience occasional bloating, gas, or abdominal discomfort? Join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up and see how healthy your gut can feel. Align contains a quality probiotic strain developed by gastroenterologists. It adds more good bacteria to your gut to naturally help soothe your occasional digestive upsets with continued daily usage. This is the time to join the Align Healthy Gut Team Up from the #1 doctor-recommended probiotic brand. Sign up at alignprobiotics.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
For Devil Radio, 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines for Wednesday, February 17th. Wisconsin state health officials have announced a third reported case of the B.1.1.7 variant of the coronavirus, known commonly as the UK variant. This case was reported in Milwaukee, with the first 2 being reported in Eau Claire and Waukesha. Based on scientific studies, researchers believe the B.1.1.7 variant spreads more rapidly and easily than the original strain of the coronavirus. Milwaukee Bucks executive Alex Lasry entered the race for U.S. Senate Wednesday with a vow to bring a fresh perspective and a new way of thinking to the nation's capital. Lasry enters the field of Wisconsin Democratic candidates looking to unseat Senator Ron Johnson in 2022. Lasry will appear on the Devil's Advocates radio show at 2:30 this afternoon. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. If you heard Luke telling you, yes, we did have Alex Lasry, the newest Democratic senatorial candidate. He joined us earlier today. If you missed it, where were you? You better have an excused absence, a note from your doctor or something. And you can also find it as a podcast later this evening or perhaps in the morning at darnwi.com. Alex Lasry, a new fine candidate. Dom, a new topical conversation, perhaps. Still, along the whitey-righty, white guilt-ish thing. But let's talk about the Gadsden flag for just a minute. It flies over, the Veterans Park in Delafield. And apparently will continue to do so. And the Gadsden flag, that's the "Don't Tread on Me." The yellow flag, it's got the coiled snake on it. I mean, if you haven't seen it, Glenn Grothman used to have a Gadsden flag on his office down at the Wisconsin State Capitol. And this flag has evolved through the years, but let's set the stage. Tell them how this story locally impacts them, Dom.
Sure. We'll start with the reporting Evan Frank over at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. The Gadsden flag will continue to be flown along the city of Delafield's Wisconsin Veterans Memorial Riverwalk. Alderman Jackie Vald originally proposed taking the flag down, but at a February 15th Common Council meeting said she would favor keeping up the flag as long as other Revolutionary War flags were added. She said adding more flags would provide additional context to the war memorial.
Context or cover?
Context. My concern with the Gadsden flag is in recent years, it's been seen more and more amongst groups that do not represent this country well. The yellow flag, which has the words "Don't Tread on Me" on it, along with a depiction of a coiled rattlesnake, has flown at Delafield's Veteran Memorial since 2004, along with the Betsy Ross flag. After the Gadsden flag was prominent while the mob stormed the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, Valdi requested the flag be removed from the war memorial. Once she decided on a different proposal, she said she would personally pay for additional flags, but the proposal was voted down 4-3. Aldermans Doug Saluga, Jim Befriend, and Matt Grimmer and Archer voted against the proposal. Aldermans Phil Kosselman and Wayne Dean joined in voting for it. Archer said adding more flags would water down the history of the flag. He was also not willing to concede that the flag is offensive, and that's really what we're talking about here. His quote: "The context of the flag is to present it as a representation in a war memorial on our Riverwalk, which has lots of other war memorials and different symbols along the way. I don't see any reason to change it." Kazan thought more flags would not be controversial. It's not diminishing. It's actually adding to the history and explaining the history. Mayor Kent Atwell also weighed in. "I think the flag should remain exactly as it is. It was put up by veterans with privately raised funds, and they decided what flags to be there. It has been appropriate for the last 15 years, and I don't see why it can't be appropriate for the next 50 years.
Well, because effectively it has been appropriated by insurrectionists and racist. The Buddhist symbol, the swastika, was appropriated by the Nazis. And since then, it has come to symbolize something it did not originally symbolize. So things change, times change. In the last 15 years, the Tea Party and the insurrectionists and the Trumpists, they adopted this Gadsden flag, and they made it representative of something that perhaps was not the intent in 1775, Dom, but it means something more today.
Are you sure about that? Because you say it, are you sure about that? And I understand your point on the Nazi flag, and I would throw out the New Balance tennis shoes. There was some white nationalist blogger a few years ago said, though, that's the tennis shoes of white people. And your red hat. I mean, if there's not a Trumpster in this world wearing a red hat, you see red hats all the time. What's the first thing you think of? Trumpsters. Well, you keep your
Badger
red hat, Gertie.
fans.
Are you gonna remove your red
Well,
hat?
my
Because
red
lots
hat
of
does
red
not
hats
say MAGA.
are worn by the Trumpsters. You can't tell from a distance.
What,
A
you're
red hat's a red
appropriating the
hat.
color red now?
Where does it stop then, Michael? I do not.
It
This
stops
flag
with the
is not-
Gadsden
the
flag.
The Gadsden flag is not racist. Its origination is not racist. I think it was designed by Benjamin Franklin. And sure, I understand that mentality, the don't tread on me, which I have a little bit of that in me myself. Certainly other folks have used that flag and walk around with it and claim it as theirs.
Yeah, they're
fair enough. That doesn't
typically
make it racist.
anti-government
You know what else-
sorts. How about
you know what else I
anti-government?
saw? You know what else I saw at that Capitol? Lots of American flags, Crudy. Lots of Trump flags. Should the American flag also now be just given up and say, well, that's something of the rioters, the insurrectionists, the fascist coups? Now that's a bad thing now, right? Should we
No,
get
but
rid of that too?
Confederate flag, and let's call it the Nazi
No, the Confederate
and
flag I'm
perhaps the
down with. I
Gadsden
would again
flag.
articulate the difference between the Confederate flag and the Gadsden
Do I
flag.
get to talk, or are you going to continuously take this conversation forward?
Well, I'm responding to you. Think it's like the
In
Confederate
real
flag?
time. Real
Go ahead.
mid-sentence.
Tell me how the Gadsden flag is like the Confederate flag. Please articulate.
It is a representation of anti-government sentiment that has grown into a greater anti-government sentiment. I don't know if you saw what was going on at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. And no, I would not prohibit the American flag from flying in the United States, but that American flag does not represent the same thing that the Gadsden flag now represents. It
But it's
represents
carried by
white
the rioters.
supremacy.
Your position is it's carried by the rioters. That's what makes it bad.
My position is it's a representation of white supremacy now. It is a representation of an anti-U.S. government sentiment. This is the flag of the insurrectionist. No, I don't think it should fly in a place of honor in Delafield.
They've decided that, Crudy. This is a historical flag. The origination of the flag,
Yeah,
was
like the
not
Nazis
anti-government.
decided.
It was it was a monarchy. It was anti-monarchy, Crudy. That's what the
In
original
1775,
So
in
now I get it. So now you're saying that
2021
because,
it means something
because
different.
the insurrectionists used that flag, carried that flag.
Because racists do,
that
'cause
now
insurrectionists
it's a race.
do.
So if a racist
Yes.
does something, if a racist drinks milk, drinking milk makes you a racist.
I don't drink milk.
If you wear a red
But this
hat,
flag
you're a
has been
racist.
politicized.
If you wear a red hat and
If
you're
you wear
racist,
a red MAGA
does
hat,
that make you
just might be a racist.
a red hat? What about a red hat?
No, not if it's a Badger
Oh,
hat.
okay. So you'll break it off at the color, but
My
the
hat's
historical
cardinal.
context of the flag, that's okay. I absolutely disagree
Well,
with
no,
this
I'm
one.
not going to throw out colors at random because somebody wore red hats or white shoes. No, I'm not talking about throwing out colors. I'm talking about throwing out a specific symbol that has come to represent anti-government sentiment.
To
and in
you,
lieu
it has
of
come
the current,
to represent that.
the
Why
fact that
why
they
would
flew
you
it over
give
the
up-
U.S. Capitol while they were insurrecting helped me have that impression.
So was the American flag, Crudy.
And the Trump flag. Should we fly
And
the Trump flag?
So I'm looking for consistency from you. What is the how do you differentiate the flying of a flag by an insurrectionist, historical, both the Gadsden flag and the U.S. flag? How do you differentiate and decide one is now racist, we cannot fly it, the other one's fine?
Let me use some source material. The shifting symbolism of the Gadsden flag. Rob Walker, the New Yorker. In January of 2014, an African-American maintenance mechanic for the United States Postal Service in Denver filed a complaint charging that he had been subjected to racial discrimination. Specifically, as a recent Equal Employment Opportunity Commission filing on the matter put it, one of the man's co-workers repeatedly wore a cap to work with the insignia of the Gadsden flag. The cap design in question involves a coiled rattlesnake. We've talked about that. Says, "Don't tread on me," against a yellow background. You've seen it. The Postal Service dismissed the complaint. But this summer, now this article dated a few years, 4 years ago. This summer, that decision was reversed by the EEOC, which some procedural back and forth ordered the agency to investigate the matter. Now, some did, over conflate that and said, this is a win. I'm not trying to overly be hyperbolic on this topic, Observers of the particular ideological bent reacted with alarm or outrage. Here are a number of the articles written at the time. Is the Gadsden flag racist? ? Government ruling wearing Don't Tread on Me Gadsden flag can be racist and racial harassment. And here's one more that was hyperbolic. Obama administration Don't Tread on Me clothes are racist, and so on. There are no definitive rulings from the Obama administration or anyone else. The EEOC, which whipped up the dedicated page to correct misreporting around the Gadsden flag case, had merely told the Postal Service in long-winded legal terms to look into the complaint. But however cooked up the notion that there was some kind of federal crackdown on the design, the controversy does point to something real. In recent years, the Gadsden flag has become a favorite amongst Tea Party enthusiasts, Second Amendment zealots, really anyone who gets riled up by the idea of government overreach, air quotes. It also has been appropriated to promote U.S. soccer and streetwear brands, and this reflects a deeper question, one that actually is pretty compelling, according to this author. How do we decide what the Gadsden flag or any symbol really means? Well, that's perhaps the greater question. One answer involves history. The Gadsden flag is one of at least three kinds of flags created by independence-minded colonists in the run-up to the Revolutionary War. That's the historical context, right, Dom? Yes. Trying to jump forward, trying to be efficient with our time. The snake, it turns out, was something of a colonial-era meme, evidently originated by Benjamin Franklin. In 1751, Franklin made the satirical suggestion that the colonies might repay the crown for shipping convicts to America by distributing rattlesnakes around England, particularly in the gardens of the prime ministers, the lords of trade, and members of parliament. For them, we are most particularly obligated. Later, in what may be America's first ever political cartoon, Franklin published the famous join or die image, which depicts the American colonies as segments of the snake. Among other borrowers, Paul Revere put the snake in 1770s newspaper nameplate. Gadsden's venomous remix for a flag used by continental sailors depicted the reassembled rattler as a righteous threat to trampling imperialism. The origins of Don't Tread on Me, leaps and summarizes, were completely 100% anti-British and pro-revolution. I don't doubt that point. Indeed, the EEOC directive agrees. It is clear that the Gadsden's flag originated in the Revolutionary War in a non-racial context. And yet, no symbolic meaning is locked in time. At the risk of proving Gadsden's law, which holds that all online debates work their way to some invocation of Nazis, consider the swastika, the symbol of well-being associated with Buddhists for thousands of years. It was used by commercial brands and even occasionally adorned U.S. and British military aircraft before the Second World War. But the Nazi regime's black, white, and red treatment and its association with anti-Semitism, violence, aggression, hatred, and death obliterated the design's earlier meaning in the West and beyond. And I would say, I'm not going to read onward. This is a very compelling article, but time's limited. The Gadsden's flag has changed meaning. It has been appropriated. And if you cannot see that there has been a change. I disagree
with your premise.
Well, that's because you were a Tea Partier in your own right. You were a Don't Tread on Me guy.
I'm still a Don't Tread on Me, man.
But the meaning of that has changed.
So are we going? No,
do you march on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th?
Do not tread on me. Listen, they also carry the American flag. You still haven't answered my question. How do you differentiate?
Your oversimplification is not worthy of response.
It is absolutely, because you don't have a response for it. That's why. Because you think the Gadsden flag is now racist because the rioters at the Capitol used it. But you don't think that the American flag is racist because they used it at the riot. I'm wondering, how do you differentiate that, Michael?
One is a symbol of our country, and the other is a symbol of racism. That's the differentiation.
It's not. Just because
I would draw.
It is does not make it so.
Is the swastika a representation symbolically of racism in this current usage? Since World War II, since the Nazis.
Yes.
But that could not possibly be the case with this Gadsden's flag.
The idea of someone who gets riled up by government overreach, or those who believe zealously in the Second Amendment, are not racial issues, Crudy.
But if
they're not.
the Second Amendment zealots and the anti-government sorts also join up with the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys, and they all adorn themselves
no
with the
more
Gadsden
Hawaiian t-shirts
flag.
for you, Crudy. No more Hawaiian t-shirts.
I don't
right?
drink milk. I don't wear Hawaiian t-shirts, and quite frankly, you'll never see me appearing with the Gadsden flag because I think it's racist. Come back with us. One last segment. Your phone calls welcome. 844-967-2789.
What's the symbology there?
I don't know if this sends a message. It does.
Do you suffer from secondhand snoring? At Primal Air, we help people with a variety of issues that begin in the snoring complex. By strengthening those muscles, we can treat all ages with problems from thumb sucking to snoring and TMJ. We offer virtual appointments too. We can help you and your family breathe smarter, not harder. Find out more at primalair.com or call 608-318-2800.
The people voted to give Democrats a mandate for bold action. From COVID relief to climate change and racial injustice, the problems we're facing are large, and we need bold solutions. We can't afford more obstruction from Senator Ron Johnson and the Republicans. Text ACT to 668-366 to join Move On. Message and data rates may apply. MoveOn.org political action paid for and is responsible for the content of this advertising. Poll.moveon.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Rocker, we gave the people live music. Isn't that what they wanted?
Of course not, Jimmy. Give the people live music, and they'll set up a brat stand with a beer caddy.
Will Rocker get his beer and brat? Catch Max Inc. Radio this Saturday evening to find out. We'll have the best of local music from Wisconsin and live music performed in the Devil's Lair. Go to maxincradio.com for the live music schedule. Max Inc. Radio starts at 6 on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Did you bring a lawn chair, Jimmy?
If it isn't effective, then what's the point? At Verdure, we offer Delta 8 products, the newest cannabinoid derived from hemp plants. Our variety of edibles and smokables blow away any CBD treats you might have tried. Get our yummy Delta Pop Steel in 5 fruitful flavors. Ease away your daily blues with these relaxing lollipops. Go to 21offers.com and use the coupon 927POPS to save 10%, courtesy of Verdure. Must be 21 years or older.
You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 and WTTN 1580 AM. And that's pretty cool.
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, have an opinion, join us. Toll free, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, a statement from Speaker Robin Voss 13 minutes ago. I just sent a request to the governor to lower the state and U.S. flags in honor of Rush Limbaugh. But the Gadsden flag apparently can fly at full mast.
844-96-PARTY. Bob from Brookfield, you are up. Welcome. What do you got for us, Bob?
Hey, Bob.
All right, Dom. I really like you. You're really standing your ground here in this argument, and you know you're really putting your argument forth, and I like both of your arguments. I see both sides of the argument. You know, the Nazi flag, get it. I get the Confederate flag. It is definitely, but this "Don't Tread on Me" flag. The minute you start and say everything is racist because of someone used it, unless it's really used. I mean, you say a MAGA hat might be racist. What if a black person's wearing it, or a Chinese person, or an Indian person? I just
that is a rare occurrence, I would say, sir.
I'm just pointing out a fact. I'm not saying it's occurrence.
Right.
I'm saying if to call it that, you know,
would you say that a Trump flag is now representative of insurrection, a big lie, and perhaps even racism? The Trump flag.
No, I would not. I would say the same thing about an Obama flag, about a Biden flag. I don't care what it is. A flag is a flag.
But sir, no one ever marched with an Obama flag,
unless it's a country flag, it only represents what the person puts on that flag.
Sir,
you can't say every Trump supporter is racist. That's like saying every Democrat is a socialist. That's like saying every Democrat is for so-and-so. You just, it's a blanket. I learned that way back in college. You can't blanket statements. You have to look at it from perspective. Yeah, okay, yeah. There are people out there who fly a flag, like he said, who fly the American flag, who are racist. There are people who are black and white who are racist, and they both fly an American flag. Does that make that flag a racist flag? No.
How about the thin blue line flag? What does that represent? Is that potentially a pushback against Black Lives Matter? If you see the Blue Lives Matter flag, what does that mean to you, sir?
I think it's supporting the police, that you support the law enforcement, which if we get into law enforcement, anybody who doesn't support law enforcement, I suggest what my buddy tells me who's a firefighter. When a firefighter comes to your house and he pours 10,000 gallons of water in your burning house, you thank him. But when you call a police officer, he comes to your house, you get into an argument, you get into a fight, you yell at him, you scream at him, whatever. Let's say your ex-girlfriend, your ex-wife, whatever, your wife, girlfriend, son, kid, whatever. Someone calls the cops on you. You get upset. It's a representation. To say a firefighter.
Yeah, but often, Bob, black people get shot by those very same cops that someone.
White people get shot by
Bob,
cops.
who'd you vote for?
White people get shot.
Bob, I want to establish your politics and your perspective on this. Would you perceive yourself a Democrat or a Republican?
I'm like your buddy.
What's that?
Ask your buddy. I'm like your buddy. I'm a libertarian. Okay, I don't vote based on party. I think the party representation is absolutely a joke on both sides.
Do you think that the "Don't Tread on Me" flag is representative of some of your sort of libertarian leanings, sir?
No, I think that flag is basically telling the government, don't tread on my rights. That's all it's saying. And back in the 60s, Democrats were against the government. They protested against the government. They didn't like.
Well, they protested against the war in Vietnam,
and now
sir.
They are for big government. Don't forget who created Vietnam. Democrats. Okay, well, I shouldn't say Democrats. Wrong. Government created Vietnam. Let's just call it that, because it.
Oh, I'm sorry, but we got some other callers. I want to get to it. Well, look, FDR obviously was a Democrat. FDR was big. It's about how, what's the philosophy? What is the point of, governance and self-governance, and what are the limitations thereof? I totally get that. And coming out of a monarchy where if the king says you were dead and you were dead, I can certainly understand, those people fighting back against that. And I still appreciate the sentiment. I guess ultimately the question is, has the Gadsden flag become, a symbol of racism? And I'm not there yet. I don't think that's the case. I think there's a historical context to it. I don't have a problem with the philosophy.
Do you feel like others have appropriated that flag and their intent is to attach a racist context or a seditionist context?
Not any more than flying the American flag. So no, I've made this comment. You apparently aren't biting on it. You think it's a bad analogy, but I'm not convinced, as perhaps Bob was saying. Just because racists, and maybe lots of racists are starting to do something, that doesn't mean that thing is all of a sudden racist.
But a Confederate flag is absolutely racist, to your opinion?
I'm sorry?
A Confederate flag. You would have a different...
No question. Well, no question. Yes. Well, what?
How did the
Confederate flag is very specific.
No, states' rights. Depends on who's making the argument.
Well, you can say states' rights, but states' rights to own slaves.
Yeah, but I've heard lots of guys like Bob from Brookfield make arguments about the Confederate flag. I interviewed one at a Trump rally on March 29th of 2016. The kid's from Milton, Wisconsin. He's telling me the Confederate flag's all about his celebration of states' rights. I said, what state are you from? Wisconsin. I said, we were on the northern side, right, kid?
Yeah, the anti-slave side. Hell, we're running out of time. Callers, sorry about that. We're not going to be able to get to you.
I blame Dom.
We'll continue this conversation. I'm right. Crudy's wrong.
Well, that is arguable. Appreciate you all for listening. Alex Lasry, U.S. senatorial candidate. Bill Press, our buddy, political talker. And soon, hopefully on a different show, we'll have Dr. Jill Underly, the candidate for Wisconsin Superintendent of Schools. We tried, Jill. Stick around. Our pal Earl Ingram is next.
Thank you, Rush, for doing my thinking for me because I lack the ability to think critically and independently.
You're all individuals. Yes, we're all individuals. I got nowhere else to go.
This is Dom from the Devil's Advocates. Cody and I have been doing this show for almost 10 years, and we've never had a more engaged, dialed in, and motivated audience, and we love them for it. Now